This
we go.
conference will now be recorded.
All right. When the public returns, the closed attorney-client session will be terminated, and then the open session has resumed. A sealed transcript of this session will be submitted to the secretary clerk within a reasonable time, and will be made part of the public record upon the conclusion of the litigation.
And Madam Chair, the only action item we have the agenda list. Any action item after the public session, after the closed door section. We're requesting that the board ratify and approve the execution of supplemental fee agreement arrangement between the district and Beloit Agnew Town of Export Association. And that would be, the district would be paying the rate is $315 for the law firm, and the district's responsible for $135 per hour. And the insurance carrier, PGIS, is paying $180 per hour.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Can we take 5 minutes?
Yes. So we're gonna go ahead and take 5 minutes just so we can get a break and then we can see you.
This conference will now be recorded.
We're not muted.
As in Bill Gates or?
No, entrance gates.
Access gates.
Oh, cool.
Hey, where were you for the festival?
Do what?
You didn't make the festival.
That's Orlando. I know. Granddaughter's baptism.
Do that anywhere. You could have brought us to the party and done. For my picture.
We had a
I mean,
big,
I can go ahead
big
and start
party. I
if you
picked up
want,
the tab.
because we do have a
Well,
quorum.
of course, that's a grandfather.
Okay, so do you guys mind if I would just start?
I don't mind.
We just had three of us. Oh, Carol's on.
Carol's on.
Here's Doug.
Here's
Here's
Doug.
Doug. We're good.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order at 3:10, and we're going to go ahead and set the pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, so we have roll call. So we have Doug, Ed, Bob, myself, and then we have Carol online. So I need a motion to allow Carol to join under.
Extraordinary
Finding
circumstances.
exceptional
Thank you.
Exceptional circumstances. I so moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's only been like a year. You'd think we'd have that verbiage down by now. but-
Pat.
2 years.
George used to write it down, but she doesn't.
2 years. Bill made 2 meetings in my 2 years on this board.
All right, approval of the final agenda.
So moved.
Anybody-
I had nothing.
I had one question on it. Oh, no, the agenda. I'm sorry. Never mind. Okay.
None?
None.
None.
So I need a motion.
I'll make that motion. Approval of final agenda.
Okay.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So public comment, Laura? Do we have anybody?
Nobody signed up. There's nothing in the chat, and I am not aware of any emails or faxes.
All right, thank you.
Wow.
All right, local achievements and recognition. This is a time that the board or you guys have anybody?
Nothing right now.
It's gonna go 4 o'clock. I'll be out of here.
Well, I think staff did a great job with the Christmas party. I don't think we've met since then, have we?
No, we have not.
No.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I went to it. I was very pleasantly surprised by the turnout. Haven't seen that many kids in a long time. But it was well organized, and Tim did a great job with it. He really did.
And that park was busy, starting at 5:30, 5:45, like way ahead
Yeah,
of
I
the
got
6
there at
o'clock start
5:30,
time.
and
Yeah.
it was jamming then.
And I echo, I think the staff did an exceptional job, and it was good to see the community all back together. And I mean, I don't know how we're going to top that next year, but we'll definitely try. Good job.
All right, so approval of minutes. Anything?
What do
I had nothing to
advisory-
pull.
Oh, advisory committees and items to report. Do we have anything?
We did not receive any notices from the 2 committees,
Okay.
sorry.
And now
So-
P-PAC has a rep in the audience, so if they don't have, you didn't have anything at all, Peggy? Okay.
All right. So then now we go to approval of minutes.
I had nothing.
I have one comment on page 7.
Which one? Which
Oh,
minutes?
11:3. And it is more than likely my faulty memory, but line number 211, it says, if any board member needs documents printed before a meeting, they are to email customer care. And I thought that the board members could still just call to get that. I thought that's where we ended that. See, Dougie's still smiling. So what's everyone else's recollection?
I understand what you said. I did use the customer care and I didn't have any problem doing it, so I didn't get all bent out of shape about it.
Well, that was very judgmental. But just tell me how you feel. Okay. What's
But I
changing?
agree with you though. I just didn't want to.
Well, you agree with me. You slam me.
I fight the system.
All right,
where I get a
so
chance to
that's the
win.
only item?
Yeah, I guess I would like to change it then. Now I disagree.
Um,
The
I didn't remember that being in it. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up.
Okay.
I thought we left it that we were. we'd
The
continue
minutes
to-
are a reflection of the comments that were made at the meeting. So if the board wants to change the minutes, we can tweak those to make sure it reflects the record.
Let's move along.
okay, so then I'll.
Motion to
Motion
approve.
to approve.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Consent agenda items. So this is the time that you want me to see if anybody wants to pull anything?
That would have been up above, but that's okay. If you
Okay.
wish to pull them now, you can.
All right, so consent agenda items. Did you want to take that?
You can do them as a whole.
So I'll make a motion to approve them.
Yeah,
Tony- Tony's-
if no one has any
Sorry.
objections, I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through D.
Second.
For discussion, please.
Yeah, Madam Chair, just one question I have. Laura, do you need Chelsea need the resolution adopted today or not?
Oh, yes.
So as part of letter A, fiscal sustainability plan, we received notice from SRF that a resolution was required as a part of adoption of that. You have adopted a resolution to this effect in the past, so we're asking for approval of a resolution to accompany that line item.
It's not in this package though, is it?
No, it is not. We were notified yesterday.
So does that need to happen first?
Well, no, I think it's part of it, that the board, part of the resolution says the board approves, adopts, and will implement the fiscal sustainability plan.
So let me take this back. I'll revise. Motion to approve consent agenda items B, C, and D. And then we'll pull A as it's separate because it.
We have a separate resolution number
Correct.
for it. That'd be
I'll second
appropriate.
that.
All in favor? Aye.
Now you do that.
Now I'll make a motion to approve.
Yeah, if you can read the title of it.
Yeah.
Sure,
it's
I'll
the-
read, I can read.
I'll just do it with it. I make a motion to approve the physical sustainability plan for SRF loan SW 360442. Also,
Resolution 2023-12, which is a resolution of the Board of Supervisors of the Gateway Services Community Development District of Lee County, Fort Myers, Florida, adopting and implementing a fiscal sustainability plan for construction loan agreement SW 360442 and providing for an effective date.
that's my motion.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could, Madam Chairman, I had a different note on 11:17 minutes that in my haste of getting through November 2nd. It said on 11:17, the last item on page 113, next to last item, Mr. Banks said that we had a precedent for creating liaisons for certain things. And he'd like to extend it, having a liaison to our advisory committees. And he would like a board liaison for each committee. I guess that's 2 committees right now, Stony Brook and Pelican. Did we do that?
I don't think we
Not yet.
actually did. I don't think we appointed liaisons. That is an action that we probably need to take.
Okay. All right, that's all. I just didn't record it occurred, but it was in here. It sounded like we were doing it.
Okay. So then district engineer,
Good afternoon, Stephen Agapi, Tetra Tech District Engineer. I have the task authorization updated list for everyone. All right, so first up, the irrigation meter replacement. We have a contract with BJ Enterprises. We're in the material procurement phase of this project. The next project is irrigation pump station generator. This is in permitting right now. Lower Hawthorne well was approved for funding with SRF. I believe staff's already working with SRF for the loan agreement. Irrigation enforcement improvements. Fred is working on the FPL consent agreement and finalizing pipe routes and easements. Flowway weir adjustments. We have our bid due date is January 18th. Shortly after, we'll bring a recommendation of award to the board for approval. Griffin utility relocation. This was originally bid several months ago and was pulled because there was other fountain contractors that had not seen it or had a chance to bid on it. So it was rebid and it worked in Gateway's favor. The new cost is about $100,000 lower than the original. So it's about $1,034,000 is the approximate construction cost for Gateway's portions of that. So the next step would be for Fred to prepare a recommendation of award for this. Aerator FPL assistance. This is for 10 lakes that were identified to have aeration done. I think simultaneously there are being bathymetrics done on these 10 lakes. And I said 10 lakes, but 2 of them are flowways. So we've had a really hard time getting anything out of FP&L. We're missing 4 of the 10 lakes, the information we need for those. So we're moving forward with what we have, and we're pressing FP&L as hard as we can. Phase 2, year 2 lake bank restoration. Lakes 85 and 88 have started. They've had some difficulties pumping down the water. I think they're getting that figured out right now, though, so hopefully next week they'll be able to start moving dirt. Avila Circle resurfacing. Keith did a really good job getting good competitive bids from contractors, and we have good price for that. So he'll probably be bringing that forward to get a contract approved to move forward with that sometime around the first of the year. And we'll finish that off with construction inspection services. Gateway Storage Building, we had a pre-application meeting today with South Florida. It went really well. We pretty much got no major heartburn from South Florida to move forward with the conceptual plan of putting the 3,000 square foot storage building there, with the caveat being that we don't deviate too much from the original approved plans and permit. Gateway Admin Building, there is an item on the agenda, so I'll just leave it for that. SRF Lake Bank Restoration Facilities Plan. We have a draft report that will be sent to staff early next month. Timber Creek sheet flow analysis. We're working with staff. We have a meeting. We'll have a meeting next week to go over what we have found and our options moving forward next week. Some miscellaneous development updates. Arborwood Phase 3. Utilities are substantially complete, and we can probably turn over utilities within the next meeting or two. There are some stormwater issues that are outstanding, including aeration, littorals, and a little bit of erosion on the lakes. So they have some work to do before stormwater gets recommended for turnover.
Is this the pond on dividing the 12th hole and Arborwood?
That pond seemed in better condition than the 2 interior ponds of Arborwood.
Well, the pond on the golf course, the common pond that I talked about the last time about the aeration.
Yeah, right.
That pond's got at least 12 trees that the hurricane took down.
Okay.
And they've been setting that away for 2.5 months.
Were they newly planted trees?
Yep.
As part of, okay.
All state and pretty much all laying flat.
In
All
the-
right.
In the easement?
Oh, yeah.
So those will have to get replaced as well. Yeah, some of the other issues were they didn't have enough littorals, they didn't have enough variety to meet the DO requirements, so they have to
On the
do-
interiors.
Yeah, so they have to do all of that before we'll accept it. North Haven, we've been working with them to get the aeration solved on that. Daniels Preserve, we provided more information for them to continue their reapplication, so it's in their court. We have West Haven on the agenda for recommendation of turnover. I believe that still stands. Yeah, utilities only, so
Utilities
that's
only.
separate item, so I'll just
Has that
leave
been
that for them.
setting for, God, that thing's been
Over a year.
over a year.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to get into it now, but
We'll get into it
yeah.
later in that
Okay.
item.
does anyone have any questions for me?
Stephen, I don't know, I was multitasking, but I got a call from a resident in Arborwood 3, and apparently the aerators have not had power since July.
Yes, yeah.
So And I
Yeah.
did reach out to our friend Alex, and he hasn't responded.
Heinball,
We're working through it.
We're working.
Alex Heinball.
Yes.
Yeah.
We've brought a slew full of issues to his attention to work through, and so,
Who was that with?
On
That's with
Arborwood?
Lennar.
in Arbor.
Lennar's the developer of
Okay.
Arborwood Phase 3.
Lots
I
of
don't
lot.
know if this goes to you or Keith, but the construction on the back gate and or back construction road,
We'll let Keith give that in his monthly report update.
okay. And the Weir 38 construction, did I read it here? That's got delayed.
Bids
a
are
little bit?
due on January
January
18th.
We extended the bids at a request of a proposer due to the holidays. So we extended those bids.
Okay. The Cypress Grove Boulevard, Pelican Reserve Boulevard lighting, is that staff or is that?
Staff.
Staff, okay. You answered that. And the gatehouse construction, is that staff too? I'll
Yes,
keep
sir.
these things in different categories, okay. All right, that's all I got.
I got a couple things. I don't know, Steve, if this is for you or for staff, but who's responsible for the SRF construction funding schedule?
Both of us.
For which project?
Irrigation.
All of
Well,
them?
we've got 3 task authorization items that are TBD with a dependency to the SRF construction funding schedule being produced. So who's responsible to produce that schedule so we can have dates updated
Well,
for these task
So
authorizations?
the irrigation pump station generator and the lower Hawthorne well, PW number 7, were both approved at the November 30th. So we are collectively working together with Infomark and the engineer to put together that application. And so it's really just going through the motions, but the irrigation and force main improvements, that one's still in design. So actually going and requesting the funding for that is still up in the air. Once we get through design, that'll be determined.
Okay.
But
What my point here is, I'm not a big fan of TBD when it comes to anticipated completion dates. If there is something that needs to be done and you don't know definitively, let's try to back into a date. So at least we have something, even if we've got 50% confidence in it. TBD for me means we have no idea when we're going to move forward this. So therefore it'd be very difficult for us to schedule to it.
Sure. We have 90 days to submit the application
Yeah,
for
okay,
the
so
loan.
that gives us a date we can back into at least start. So let's try to do that. And then also, when you're looking at the Gateway Storage Building and the Gateway Admin Building, we have an anticipated completion date. So that's the date that we're saying tentatively that the project would be complete.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. It would,
Well, that's a back end date, isn't it? Because we got to be out of the other place.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of.
It's actually August.
And on those types of things, I think it would be maybe advantageous to have I'm sure at some point we'll get a plan on as we're going through permitting, all these things. So a project plan so we can see how long this is going to take, when we're going to actually start breaking ground, all that kind of stuff. We would anticipate that, correct?
we have a draft one for staff review, but part of that is contingent on the determination that you guys make today.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll be able to.
But we
update
will
that.
be getting that level of detail
Yeah.
at some point in the future, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay,
That way
that's-
we'll see if we're on time or falling behind or whatever.
We will be on
They
time.
used to call those Gantt charts.
yeah, exactly, yeah. We look for again on this. Okay,
See
that's
how
it.
old I am.
You got anything, Ed? All right.
All right,
Oh
thank
my
you.
God.
Thanks.
Don't jinx us.
Okay, number 11, administrative agenda items. That Laura or that's you?
So 11A is the establishment of Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. This is at the request of the Board of Supervisors at your last meeting to establish this committee with the initial direction to focus on the fun park alone, but leaving the opportunity to expand that scope of that committee in the future as determined by the board.
So all we're doing is just
Establishing.
We're just establishing.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a quick question. Tony, it is on that draft, it says residents of Gateway or its representatives, so they don't have to live here. I just want a clarification on that. Does that mean that Joan lives here, home here, but it's renting and she's making that renter, a rep? and
Yes,
then
what
you
section
give
is
it-
that again? I'm trying to think.
I think the way we've done it in the past is if you are on one of these committees, you don't have, the stipulation doesn't necessarily have to be you're a resident. You could be a subject matter expert in the area,
Yes.
you know,
Well,
so.
either way, the nomination of that individual to the committee will come back in front of the board. So, and all of that is laid out in there in the application for an advisory committee.
And it could be for the commercial property owners also.
Okay, but the language that's on the resolution is what I'm questioning.
Yeah, it could be representatives of property owners, so it could be broad. If I correct, if somebody owns a place but leases it out, that owner, they're not, they may not be a resident,
Okay,
but they are a property owner and or commercial property owner.
okay, so that's the only thing I have.
Because I've seen that happen also, where commercial property owners have a seat at the table for certain committees at times.
Okay, so we have a
Motion
motion and a
is second.
second. A call for vote. All in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Right.
All right. When you're ready.
Ready?
All
You
right.
can just, like, on the admin stuff, you can just go
Just
over
keep
the
going.
list,
Okay.
yeah.
The next one is the turnover and conveyance of utilities for West Haven. This dates back to a little over a year ago. I think there was an initial discussion on bringing this in front of the board. I think the punch list at the time, again, this is going back and reading the historical information. The punch list was so extensive that the district held off in accepting conveyance of the utilities, which will be the only thing that will be conveyed to the district as part of this community. So again, this would be requesting approval of the acceptance of conveyance with contingent upon the district engineer, district manager, and district attorney, and then reducing the bond. I will say that in the background, there was an issue that happened over some time ago where the original bond was increased by 10%. By WCI/Lennar. They did that across all of their bonds because Lee County requires that. So the 10% that this will be reduced to is the original bond amount, 10% of that. So,
And
As to the utility portion.
as to the utility portion,
is this inclusive of stormwater?
this is just the utilities.
Just the utilities,
enterprise.
so potable, irrigation,
Yes.
reuse, and sanitary.
Yes.
Yeah, and part of this also was they updated and provided new bills of sale and a new affidavit. Because that was dated June, I think, of last year. April of last year.
April.
yeah.
All right, so I need a motion for that.
I'll make that motion.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Keith, do you want to come up and touch on the next two contracts, or do you want me to take them?
If you have any questions.
Okay, so the item C is a 3-year conservation easement maintenance contract with Aquagenics. Again, we were doing year-to-year contracts, and in an effort to streamline the process and save the district some funding, Aquagenics has agreed to hold their pricing for all 3 years. And so this would be entering into that agreement for the conservation maintenance for a 3-year period, effective January 1st.
Who's our current vendor now?
Cross Creek.
And I guess I do have some
This
questions.
is that one that,
Yeah.
remember, we had the
Yes.
problems.
Okay, so any issues with Cross Creek now?
No issues. Oh, Keith Riddle, Public Works Director.
Okay.
No issues.
How do they compare with Pelican? I don't even know who Pelican has, but I know they did a bid recently and got a significant price reduction.
You guys are using a combination of Superior and Solitude.
Okay. And I assume they were available to bid on this project also?
Solitude did not, Superior did.
Okay.
My only concern was when we had issues before, who was that vendor?
Aquagenics.
And
It was when they were reorganizing.
not keeping up maintenance?
I think they had a
No, what-
corporation problem.
Yeah, what happened is the workers went in and they were closed, no warning.
Okay.
So they're
People
back
left.
in.
They've
People left.
reorganized.
Reorganized.
Yeah, they've reorganized. The people that we are working with at Aquagenics are at Cross Creek now, the ones who are in charge of the ponds, which is had some bearing on why we chose Cross Creek last year, as well as the price. But I mean, it's up to the board which direction you guys want to go.
My position on this is, why are we not rewarding vendors that are doing good work? And I don't know if there was specific reasons why we lost confidence in Aquagenics doing their reorg, and we went with Cross Creek. Unless there is something substantial that either from a cost perspective or quality of service that would take us away from what we're doing today, I don't know. Because there's a message that's sent to vendors too when we do this. That means we can go in and do a great job, and that doesn't mean,
Low bid,
you know,
low bid.
Yeah. And I'm not necessarily so concerned about the conservation, but I am for the next item, which is the pond. And even prior to the restructure, we did have, questionable maintenance reporting and everything else. So I want to be able to think of all that, and if we're going to keep the same vendor. So
Well, our experience with the conservation areas, first of all, it's not an area that you really look at a lot. I mean, we assume
one
they're doing
looks
their
at it a
work.
lot.
Yeah, nobody. That's
Yeah.
right. Well, you're not allowed in there. You're not allowed in there. I mean,
I have
twice
my
a year.
golf ball in there all the time.
Well, you can't get that. But twice a year, somebody goes through it, cuts down melaleucas and takes out, the pepper trees and things like that. My interest came about because it was such a dramatic cost improvement when we went from the Lennar vendor, which at that time was Woods and Wetlands, to whoever they have now, and I don't remember the name of it, but Laura probably knows better. But I mean, they saved like $80,000 a year. So again, to echo Doug said, if you're not having problems with them, I don't know why you'd want to change. But on the other hand, we're trying to get the most efficient vendor that we can get.
Yeah.
But this is a low visibility kind of an item, but a high cost item.
3% differential.
Yeah, 3% probably wouldn't make a change.
Yeah, I mean, that was the one thing I was looking at too, is the difference is, it's
3%
pretty
when you got
minor.
people that know what they're doing and they're already there and they know the various idiosyncrasies of the different areas.
Was staff's recommendation based solely on low bid?
Low bid and reference checks, yes.
Okay, were there any issues with Cross Creek reference checks? Did
No.
anything come up? Okay, so it was basically you didn't find any issues with Aquagenics
Correct.
or Superior.
Correct.
Okay.
So does anybody want to make a motion to go with staff recommendation, or we want to keep the current vendor?
The
We've
current
had no-
vendors, Cross Creek, is that what I heard?
Yeah, and we've had no issues with Cross Creek, none whatsoever. And we're doing this purely because of timing.
Yes, sir.
That's time to do it.
Contracts
and
expiring.
we put this bid out as a 3-year bid, right?
Yes.
Is there, so Tony, what leverage do we have in altering that contract? I mean, if we put the bid out for 3 years, is that where the contract, I mean, I'm sure we have a termination clause
Yeah,
in there.
there's
So
termination for convenience clause.
yeah, we have a termination for convenience. So at any
Yes.
point, if things change,
That's correct.
um,
And we'd only be the district would only be responsible for work performed up to the time of the termination.
what's the termination period? Is it 30 days, 60 days?
30 days.
30 days?
It's
Okay.
here.
30
Let me
days by
double
either
check.
party, yep.
So, I mean, I would like to make a motion that we approve a 3-year aeration maintenance contract.
We're talking about conservation.
No,
Oh,
conservation.
I'm sorry. I was reading the wrong one. Sorry. The 3-year conservation easement maintenance contract be rewarded and maintained with Cross Creek, our existing vendor.
Yes, Tom.
Add to it.
And in making that motion, Mr. Banks, so part of the motion is determining that the lowest, most responsible, best bid or proposal is that of Cross Creek based upon the ability and adequacy of professional personnel, past performance for the district, willingness to meet time and budget requirements, recent, current, projected workloads, and volume of work previously performed.
That's exactly what I heard Doug say.
Do I have a second?
I'll say.
And most advantageous to the district, I'm sorry.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
And I would just say, one of the things that I would hope we were saying to all of our vendors is, it's our expectation that they continue to help, provide high quality, but also look at opportunities for cost saves, value engineering and those types of things moving forward. So,
Yeah, we certainly wouldn't be opposed to them holding the price for all 3 years, even though they gave us a better price. Just saying.
That's an asterisk at the end of the
Yeah, right.
All right, so the next item is a 3-year aerator maintenance contract, and again, the staff recommendation is to go with Aquagenics.
who are we using today?
Cross Creek.
I think somebody wanted to get back in our good graces.
I do have one quick
Sharpen their
question. Does
pencil.
this contract, does the breakdown table includes all the new aerators that we're gonna be installing 2024, 2023?
No,
No,
this is separate.
this is the
project.
existing
This
aerators
is
only.
maintenance.
This is just what we got.
So then my question, because they're priced by unit, once they are installed in 2023, is the price going to change? Or are they gonna take those?
Change order.
It would have to be an amendment or a change
Okay,
order.
so that's my
Yeah.
question.
And at that time, if that price goes up, we could terminate for convenience
Go back,
and rebid.
rebid.
Okay.
Any issues with,
Well, just another
Yeah.
question for Keith. Do all 3 of the bidders, do any of them include parts?
No, sir.
Do any of them include rebuild kits as part of the package?
They will, no, not rebuild kits. They will just change parts if they are changeable. But
Okay,
we have to pay for the parts separate.
We had some rebuild kits that were included, I think, in some of our earlier compressors. Now, we've had a lot of compressors.
The
Okay.
bid specs calls for seal kits, piston seal kits, and rebuild kits.
Please
Okay.
relay that in the meeting. Please relay what you said on the record.
He said that rebid seal kits are included in the contract.
Okay, so it is apples to apples, oranges to oranges. Is that what I'm hearing, Keith, at least as far as you are concerned with these 3 bids?
Yes. They're all good contractors.
And the problem that Pelican is currently experiencing with consolidating meters, or the potential of consolidating meters, so we're not paying
Meter base.
a meter-based minimum that's extensive, or at least we think it's extensive. Were you a part of that conversation?
No.
Okay, in Pelican, we spend $80,000 a year on electric. And we think we've discovered that we were paying an awful lot of that. Pick a number, I don't know what it is, 35,000, just because of the number of meters we have. So they're now investigating consolidating compressors to meters to reduce the overall cost. And I want to make sure whatever those considerations are, that Gateway can learn from the mistake of Pelican and try and come out with the best price to begin with.
A lot of that's based upon where the
The
Well, I
location.
understand that.
location, sometimes
Yep.
you can't do it.
Nope,
It's just
sometimes
tough.
you can't.
Yeah.
And we went out of our way to differentiate between a separate meter for irrigation as opposed to irrigation, aeration, and substations.
Yeah,
Turned out
sometimes
to
you have
be
to work it backwards to get the
counterproductive.
FPL electrical, what it can give you before you start doing the
Well,
design.
that was a whole other can of worms too. Okay.
Okay, so then I need to make I need a motion for the 3-year aerator maintenance contract. Either we keep the same vendor or we go with staff recommendation, which is Aquagenics.
I mean, I would stick to my same philosophy here. Unless
And
anybody
Cross
has
Creek
any-
currently has, who has it now?
Cross Creek.
Cross Creek.
And no issues. 6,000.
I hate to discourage people that are trying to save us money, but
15%
but
difference.
on the other hand,
So I'll make a motion that we reward a 3-year aeration maintenance contract to Cross Creek. Tony, you
And
want
as part of that motion is making a determination that Cross Creek's proposal was the lowest, most responsive, responsible, and best bidder proposal, most advantageous to the district, taking into account factors such as that were in the invitation to bid and request for proposals and past performance for the district and in other professional employment settings, recent current projected workloads, and the ability and adequacy of the professional personnel, among other factors.
Yes.
I don't think it'd be appropriate at this time to put the condition or qualification that when we come down to do a change order, that we do all the other manipulations as to whether we want to rebid. That happens
We'll
when
have
it
it at a
happens.
time. Yeah.
That's at a different time.
one
I'll-
last question, reinforce it if I'm repeating
Was there a
myself.
second? to the
Who is
motion?
currently the
Let's go
supplier in Pelican?
I'm not sure in Pelican.
It's
Hey,
either
Bob, hold on one
Solitude or
second.
Superior.
So
I
we
gotta
have,
second that motion for
Yeah.
Bob,
discussion.
we just need Ed to second.
Oh, I thought you did. I'm sorry.
You second?
Yes, I do.
Okay, all right, now, okay.
Currently, it's Superior.
You have both Superior and Solitude doing work over there.
No, I'm talking specifically aeration. I thought we only had one.
Then it would be Superior.
Okay. And
Is
the
it-
reason I wanted to know that because I knew it was at one time. I guess it used to be Solitude, and they've changed to Superior, or it used to be CES.
We just changed.
I know.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of experience with this and a lot of pains with aeration. I have no idea where Cross Creek funds. You guys only got about 8 or 9 ponds. We've got 58. But to the same thought process that we're holding Cross Creek right now versus Aquagenics, my vote will be for Superior simply because the volume that they've handled and the problems that we've had, lightning strikes and getting parts and changing cabinets and working with us on all of that with insulation levels. When we go to aeration over here, this is going to be a big, big ticket item. This is the tip of the iceberg. And I guess the history of what we've learned at Pelican would give me the nod for a couple $1,000 to recommend Superior. I'll throw that out.
Well, so there will be significant difference. I don't want to say this. We've got a significant number of aerators to install, right?
To install, but
To
not
install.
right now.
Which will impact our maintenance.
Change the picture.
So what we are approving today, this landscape is going to be drastically different in,
A year.
let's just say a year, right? Because we bid for 3 years, which hindsight, we probably should have did this just annual contract, knowing, with the aeration installs. The only thing that we will have is to be able to terminate due to the scope changing, and if we can't come to terms with a change order.
Just rebid.
So we'll have to do that. So I don't think that's a big issue. I hate to go into a 3-year contract knowing that there's a high probability we're going to terminate it. We might either revise through an amendment, or if we can't come to terms, we'd have to terminate. I hate going into a 3-year contract knowing that in year 1, there's going to be a significant impact. And I think we can operate under good faith that any changes we can come to an agreement within the vendor. So I'm fine with moving forward with Cross Creek, just hoping that we'll be able to sort things out.
I just hope they know what they're biting on.
And maybe there's an opportunity
We
to
went
have
through the
some cost
problem with-
saves or maybe some more advantageous pricing when it comes to that expansion.
Yeah.
That might offset what we're at today, the difference.
When we started on this, it didn't look like it was going to be a big problem at all. And I'm telling you, oh my God, the headaches.
When we get down, we're going to be comparing something totally different than what we got right now.
Agree.
all right, so we have a motion and a second, I'll call for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I just want to state that,
You can ask for a pose.
any opposed?
Any opposed?
Yeah.
One.
Which one?
And I'll just say that,
I can barely hear.
Me.
in making this motion, I think we've had a good relationship with Aquagenics and Superior in the past. So my decision to make this vote really has little bearing on what I think the ability of both those vendors to do this. It's more my philosophy around if we have vendors and they're doing a good job for us, then I think we should reward that work with extended contracts.
That's exactly why I'm voting for Superior. I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, and I hope we continue our relationship with the other vendors whenever there's opportunity.
If we haven't got it, it'll be out the first of the year. And it,
Who's talking?
yeah,
Girls.
I think
All right, so then
John.
Lake Restorations and.
All right, so this next item was at the request of the board. On one hand, we have the Lake Bank priority list that we're proceeding with SRF design, facilities plan, et cetera. But then in the other hand, we have point repairs and washouts and things like that need to be addressed. So staff has clearly taken this a very comprehensive list. And I'll turn it over to Keith to kind of go over the details of it.
So as Chelsea said, we use this list that you see. We hope you got your reading glasses or magnifying glasses handy.
I got a print copy and I still need it.
So we use this list for pretty much everything we track on the ponds. So, but I did highlight in yellow the area of the spreadsheet that concerns past lake bank repairs, future and point repairs, and erosion repairs as well. So I think this is what you guys were looking for, I hope. And you can go basically to any pond that you have a question about. You can see when and if it ever was repaired, what type of repair was done, and when is it scheduled for lake bank restoration, or is it in need of stone replacement or washouts. So right now, though, and Supervisor Tinkle, I know you mentioned the exposed the geotechs. We are updating this list. The last survey we did was in late 2020, so staff is actually going out and updating that list. And as our intent is to get those areas fixed
Okay,
in
I was
this
going to ask that
this dry
question
season.
earlier when we were talking about the 3 rolls of matting or 5 rolls of matting. Is it premature to get rid of that matting
The
if we might have a
surplus.
need?
That
Oh,
matting
that's-
is no good, unfortunately. It's been sitting in the sun for 2 years.
It's been in the sun for 2 years?
Yes, sir.
So,
Okay.
so I
I
mean,
thought it was in the
no,
containers.
but I do recall this conversation, and it's prior to Chelsea when Chris was here, that the item was there, and he had to reach out to the vendor that he purchased because I was concerned that was it was just going to be useless, and he did reach out to the vendor, and I'm going by memory, but Chris told us there is no problem having it out there because we brought this up I think 2 years ago.
It's not so much the problem of installing it, it's the problem of they will not warrant it.
So the vendor that's doing the installation didn't have any leg to stand on.
Right.
Well, but I'm sure there's somewhere in this community that we can leverage that material for.
That's what I thought.
You know,
Especially
it's
in
not-
some of these places where we have, like over on 125, 128, where we had those washouts that we fixed our way and it didn't work. That would be a perfect place to, if anything, we put down 2 layers of the matting.
Yeah.
Use it as point repair.
Use it as
Yeah,
point repair.
yeah. I mean,
That's what
let's make sure we're not throwing that out just because, like there's somewhere where you can use that.
Because we're not going to get I can't picture any contractor worth his salt on these small point repairs coming in there and bidding that thing unless you're going to put a large warranty requirement on it. That price is going to go through the roof. If we give him the product and say, we understand that, but you have to put it in accordance with our specification, that could help us quite a bit and cut the cost on some of these repairs that need something more than dirt. They need the matting.
And that's more robust than the coconut mat, for
Oh,
sure.
by far,
Yeah.
even if it's out there 5 years.
I'd be willing to take that risk on
I
some
would.
warranty
So would I.
just to have that down because it's
I
going to be
would- I would
better.
too.
Well, from a warranty standpoint for that application, it really isn't critical because it's going to be eventually officially, fixed with the link bank restoration project.
No, I was just giving an example of.
The only difference is that if you do go with the matting, you are going to have to protect it once you put it down, which means you're basically back to some crushed stone, crushed floors, some material to cover it.
And Keith, I don't think it's a given that every lake or every pond over here is going to end up getting a full-blown replacement.
Oh, no, no
Correct.
way.
So this
We
stuff
don't
can
need
be
that.
used and used effectively, maybe on a pond with only minimal requirements.
Yeah, I'd like to take and see, we just come out with some of these ponds like 125, 128. We give these guys 50, 60, 100 lineal feet and say, hey, you're going to put this down. You're going to reshape it 3 to 1, 4 to 1, whatever the slope is. You're going to use this 2 layers thick, whatever. And we'll take the issue on the warranty.
Okay.
We'll take the issue on the
And
warranty.
possibly on
Well,
golf course area.
I was waiting
Most
for
of the
that to
warranty
come
on the
up.
point repairs was only a year anyways. Tony, yeah.
Just a question if I may, I'm not an engineer, but just a question, is the funding for this SRF or the proposed bond issue?
This is bond.
Our money.
And I guess the question from the standpoint of an engineer, standpoint of the projects, if these monies are going to be utilized to use something that can only be in a limited area, we just need to have the engineers make sure that's okay under what's proposed for the scope of the bond work.
Well, we've had a history, Tony, that we didn't engineer some of this. That's, in my opinion, why we got in trouble. If we get with Tyler, sorry, Steve. We got on the brain. if we can get with Steve and go through some of these point repairs, and again, we're talking about significant ones with washout.
Right.
To where we have this problem that it can happen again, as it did here. Let them utilize the engineer to come up with a methodology of how we bid that out.
Effectively, so that it doesn't
Yeah.
run afoul of
And
what.
not full-blown SRF. This is
No,
just,
oh, yeah,
Or,
yeah,
or,
yeah.
or again,
And then do
the
a
bond issue.
think
too.
of a tire patch. Tony.
lump sum point repair bids.
Tire
period.
patches.
Only reason I say that, because typically in a capital project, the idea is supposed to be like a 10-year capital project and not last only 2 years or 3 years. And so I think,
Oh, I would hope it'd be a
These,
lot
these
better
are
than
not
that.
capital projects.
Yeah.
okay,
Bicycle tire repairs.
I thought, but
Got
if
a
it's
little
included
blowout.
in
So
if it's included in our proposed bond series, then it is a capital project.
Well,
We
Not
have
the point
identified
repairs.
pond by pond that's going to be on a capital project.
Are the point
These are
repairs?
ponds other than those, or point areas other than those
Okay.
that need attention.
Yes, that's my understanding. That's what we no?
Sort
No,
of.
a lot of these ponds are point repairs in ponds that will get restored completely.
Yeah, some of them are,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
they're big enough and all, absolutely. But they're identified.
But-
I'm talking about the ones that haven't been identified yet, that'll pop up in the future.
And that's what we should be using that, because they will
Right.
be okay. So for the ones that are on the list that are part of the bond, then don't use it. If they're not there, but you suddenly realize that there's an issue that needs to be repaired, we'll be using this.
And we buy time on the service life. We kick the can down the road using a product that would give us additional life.
It doesn't
So,
seem like it's
with-
clear.
with
I can
that-
see it in your face. So
With
I-
that
yeah.
understanding, you are going to have a lot of ponds out there that are on the list to be restored that will not get point repairs then, that are in need.
No, I don't think we want to switch. I think we want to continue that route. And if any other ponds, they're not included here, because you know, if it starts raining, suddenly a pond that's perfectly now needs a point repair and it's an emergency. Those are the ones that we want to use that. Is that,
Well, that and these are ponds, or at least the point repairs I'm referring to, are point repairs that drastically fail meeting South Florida Water Management District requirements. I mean, they're not even close. But they are not of a pond size and or of an urgency to get them in today
Slide over.
and put them on our list. So waiting 7 years till when they come up isn't going to get it. Somebody could get hurt. We need to get these fixed, in i.e. their point repairs.
So-
If you have a pond, just one last comment, if you have a pond, like, we'll call it Flowway 4, we call it a pond. And right now it says no repairs currently needed. Well, if an event occurs and we have to do something there, that would be
Yeah.
our preferred
Exactly.
material to fix it.
Yeah.
As differentiated from the ones that are on the SRF loan. That would be the distinction.
Or the capital projects
The
list
capital,
from the
whatever,
bond.
yes, all that.
Okay.
If I had it and was in your shoes and had an issue, I'd be trying to differentiate, what do I do with a pond that's got a point repair, but is going to be up within, let's say, 2 years?
So
That's
Do
the
we
issue.
spend the
That-
money
that's
doing
the
it? And
issue.
my point is,
Let me
my
help.
We're
definition,
engineering it here. and we
yeah,
have to
my
spend it.
definition of point repair is it needs to be done now and can't wait to be kicked down the road 2 years because it's dangerous.
Okay, so that, let me help clarify this. The intent of coming in front of the board is to ask for your direction. We have a limited pot of money in this fiscal year's budget for point repairs. It's our intent right now to do exactly like you said, Mr. Tinkle, is to look 2 years out, and then, correct me if I'm wrong, Keith, in the next 2 years, these ponds, XYZ, Q, are going to be repaired. From year 3, or you're including,
Year 3.
from looking at year 3, that's where,
If you're saying that there is not enough money to do all the point repairs independent of these other issues, that means we need to introduce a line in the sand of what we're going to do up to then. and
Yes.
a line-
exactly,
Okay,
and that's
I'll buy
the
that.
line we need
Okay,
from
I
the
agree.
board.
Pick a number there. But I would say if you, staff, and Stephen can go out there, pick and prioritize these, the key is you got to come up with a dollar value to find out when you'll run out.
well,
Yes.
and also,
That's the issue.
it's part of that severity ranking too. You know, if it's on a resident side or if it poses a higher risk,
Yeah, that's another issue.
then that's part of
The
what
intent-
that severity.
That is-
Yeah.
The
That is
intent,
our approach.
the
Yes.
intent was to follow the direction that the board gave with regards to the priority list for the
Which was
ponds.
the
was-
residential first.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
I
So,
totally agree
but
with that.
the bigger picture is we will be asking for that line to be drawn in the sand. And this is the starting point from 2020. We're going to update it over the next, hopefully, month. This is a lot of legwork out. We have a limited pot. If the focus is to cover all of the exposed armor, we're going to run out of money pretty quick.
Well, we got another alternative. Once we go out there and we start looking at this and starting that dollar value and accumulating it, when it gets up to the number, what are we at? 1 million
For
this number, this allocation, 1,500,000. What was the allocation?
I don't recall.
I thought it was 1 million, but anyway, whatever it is, we don't have to sit here and live with that. If next year we see that we're not going to either be able to get to other ponds, and we've got, because this isn't dynamic or static, this thing's going to be dynamic, and it's going to get worse every year. So we better be planning on knowing what these are, and if we need 2 million in this account, we better be prepared to put that in there at the next budgetary.
Well, let me pose something too. I think we've had a philosophy for a couple of years to where it makes sense to build out capability internally. We started to do it with, Kenny's done it with bringing in people that can do concrete work and other types of stuff. We might want to look at building out some internal capability for some of these spot repairs. Now, I'm not an engineer. I don't know if and you guys can say, Doug, there's no way, even with spot repairs, that it would be way too expensive for equipment and access and all that stuff. So you guys might shoot me down immediately. But I just want to raise the point. If we're talking about spot repairs, and spot repairs are going to be an ongoing thing. Doesn't matter how much money we spend and how great the restoration is, you're going to have spot repairs from now until
whatever reason,
for indefinitely. If we need to be looking at, does it make sense for us to build out internal capability? Because I would imagine it's probably some equipment, but
you'd have
more
to
hands on
separate,
deck.
You'd have to separate it into two categories.
And if it's if we have a team that is solely focused on that because it makes sense from a cost perspective of having the labor and the equipment is cheaper than us going out to market every time, then I think we should look at that. If that's not something that's a full-time job, then we can cross-train in other areas. Have we thought about that at all? And
we're
is
also
that
looking
feasible or
at
viable?
some ponds that now have 5 years. Some of our 2018 ponds.
Yeah.
Issues may arise.
Repaired ponds.
Right, repaired ponds.
Yeah.
They're done.
And those would
but
be great ones that we could
That's
use
where
our
we can
people.
use that material.
Yep. I know Tim's building out capability within public works as well. So
this is definitely something that I think we could easily do with a dump truck, a skid steer, and some staff. And we could save the cost on the taxes and things like
Articulated
that.
loader to where you can just
Yes.
take stone down and
I
dump it
think
in a
that is
spot.
a great 3-year plan that we would love to entertain with the board. We can crunch the numbers.
Well,
and-
this is what we had to have first.
Yes.
We had to have this first.
right.
So we
Because
could
what
start.
we're talking about is we're not looking for permanent solutions here. We're looking at a 24-month, maybe 36-month solution. So it could just be a matter of regrading and maybe reinforcing. We just need to get that window. And if we have to do it twice, if it's cheaper to do it twice just to regrade, until it gets scheduled, I think it makes perfect sense. We should be doing that.
Yeah, some of these things are only 3-4 feet wide.
Yep.
Some of them are 100 feet long.
Yeah.
And
Okay. Well, again,
they're
we're,
different.
we're,
Do you
we're
need
engineers
direction?
here. We
Yeah.
need to.
but this was a great start.
Direction on anything? Are you?
I was just curious, why was everything yellow?
So you could
That,
see it.
so you didn't look at everything else, just the yellow. I don't need direction on anything at this point. I will once I have the quantities and the budget.
Yeah, if I could just make one request, what's done, make that a color that we know it's done
Okay.
versus
This
things that are up.
this document is very fluid.
very
It will
fluid.
be
Make
changing.
1 year
They
green,
could change.
3 years
Yeah.
out.
And,
maybe
and is it
brownish.
the intent, like where's this document housed?
in our server.
Okay. And it's not really something for the board to go in at any point in time and take a look at.
I mean, if you request it through customer care, we'd be more than happy to send
But
it
you
to
just,
you.
but what you would send is like a PDF version or Excel. Like
Had to get that in. didn't
Yeah,
we?
yeah.
the reason why I asked is
That was 3 points.
if it's something that was going to be shared, we could just put some things in there where you can actually just type, you can filter or sort depending on
Well,
the.
this would be great for residents to look at if they have questions about when their ponds
Well,
can be done.
things are going to start to change now. December 7th, we hit control. Now the water level looks like it's starting to drop down, and things that we don't want to see, I think we're going to see. So this thing could very well expand, and we find
But
out.
I like
we
to have
got
this
what-
available to the.
Oh, this
residents.
is great.
Yeah, good job.
This is a public record.
Yeah.
The public can request that. Again, that's fluid, so I'd hate to post it and then it could change tomorrow.
Okay.
What they don't want to see is to see their pond on there, see it's identified as a problem, and then see 2031 next to it.
Yeah.
That's what they
Well,
don't
then
want to
just
see.
put Ed's number
Right.
next to that.
We have a lot of inquiries from residents on their ponds. Lots.
Yeah, and
Yes,
Chelsea
yes,
may
right.
actually, it's a good point, may want to put a disclaimer that as to,
Yeah.
because people fixate on numbers and dates and
Mhm.
times, that this document may
Yeah.
change occasionally based
It's
upon.
not, if it's not a
observations.
living document, it's the point in time.
Critical is to get the money of where we run out.
Yeah.
So we know what we're dealing with.
Mhm.
Because if we need more money,
Well-
this is one
Oh my
that
God.
I have.
From our staff
We need to hit it.
perspective, we are looking at the first supplemental bond, that budget, and we will do as much as we can with that. But we got to go out there and get eyes, get current data, and then start to get estimates and see how far we can make that money stretch.
In parallel with what's the level of effort to build out some of this capability internally?
Yes, absolutely.
Did somebody go into the field and go walk the pond banks to get this data here? And come up with the
Yeah,
quantities?
I was in 2020, late 2020, that was done, but it's been so much change since then. We're redoing it right now.
They're going to be
I
walking.
might
Yeah.
take and walk a couple of my ponds and get some
Yeah.
ideas on the numbers.
We'd love for that data that you collect.
Pelicans
Yeah.
is the process of doing that very thing, of walking every one of their ponds to see what's changed since the last time we took that snapshot.
Are you documenting that? Are you taking pictures or?
I don't know exactly what they're doing, but I was talking to Mr. Zander, and I know that is the plan in first quarter of 23, that they will walk every pond, see if we've had any further degradation. The biggest problem over there is the Cypress Grove communities. We have been unable to get the littorals to take root. Either the fish is eating it or the birds are eating it. And we have more significant erosion in the newest communities than we do in our oldest communities. So all of those things are
Yeah,
being
that's why I
addressed.
wanted to divide it into two categories of work, going back to ponds that have already been done. And are there problems we have there? And areas that have never been done
As
that
we
have
said, it's-
significant erosion.
It's dynamic.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
stuff.
very-
We'll be able to
So
filter
moved.
this document in any way
Okay.
you guys need, so.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll come back at a future date once we get the ponds walked and get updated information. But again, we do have this document, and if you'd like to see it, we'd be more than happy to send it to
I
you.
guess one thing though that I will be bringing, if you could start thinking about, is that we will be looking for an agreement on a standard for the eroded areas.
Say it again.
On a standard for the eroded areas on what we want to do a point repair on. The gravel is an easy one. That's just put the gravel back on. But for the eroded areas, I will be looking for something on, okay, it's 18 inches or more. Yes, we're going to repair it. And it's 20 foot wide. It needs to be repaired.
What
So
priority?
what condition is going to warrant a point repair?
We did that prior to you remember that, right? We did that. And
Well-
so that's what it concerns me when those are even the requirements now that we say yes or no to residents for removal of Toro. So that was set. So so I'm just trying to walk through. So if a resident comes in and asks to have something removed, how can we say yes or no when we internally don't know the specification, which was set prior to? Because you recall that, right?
Yeah, well, what our deal is, and we're not out on real good relationship with some of these owners. They saw what we did when we somewhat did it on our own by the seat of our pants. They failed.
Mhm.
Let's this time get an engineer involved and let an engineer make a decision of whether we can do it internally or we have to go outside and design it. Because some of these, especially on that pond 125, those are significant. And we spent a lot of money on both sides of that pond and we lost them all.
Let me expound on Keith's point. So we know what the requirement is per the permit. At what threshold does this pond point repair take priority over this one? And that's, and
Lots of luck.
if
It's a
that has,
judgment call.
That's a judgment.
and if that's been set, then we'll rely on that information. But if you guys are looking for staff direction or input, we can give our recommendation, but ultimately the board's going to have to.
Well,
make
it's,
That should be Ellen, Keith. as far
Well,
as
you
I'm
got,
I think it
you
should
got
come
two,
from you
you got two
guys.
things you know that you got to live with. 9 inches is on the escarpment. That's, anything over 9 inches is a problem. And then the second one is if you get down below 3.6 on the slope. Either or is a problem. That's what you got to go
and then
by.
if you're talking, if all things being equal, here, these two ponds have this same type of issue, how do you prioritize one over the other? If they're resident facing is one, and then I'm sure we could probably come up with a decision tree.
Mhm.
So we'll be looking for that type of information. We'll come
I
up
will
with
come with a recommendation. I just want to start
Yeah,
thinking
yeah.
about it.
You're on the right track
We
there.
might be back to our red, green, yellow, purple,
Okay.
blue color code as to,
It was very difficult to hold into that 9-inch category when we were looking at some escarpments that were 3 and 4 feet.
And we've got
Yeah,
3 feet
the
out there
9
right
inch
now.
is
That
everywhere.
was the other prioritization.
All right.
And then Chelsea, just, I don't even think we have 1 million for point repairs. I don't even think we
No.
have 500,000.
We have
in the budget.
100,000 right now in the
That's
budget.
what I
What'd
was
you
talking,
say?
when you said
$100,000.
For this fiscal year.
How much?
We-
$100,000
100,000 is all we've
Yes.
got?
in this
So
budget, yeah.
We
Not,
won't get
that
off
does
the
not
first
count the
page.
bond. That does not count the
Okay,
bond.
doesn't count the
That's
bond.
just this current.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Ready?
Moving right along.
Yes.
Hoping?
1 million.
So the next item, again, was mentioned at a prior meeting. There was a suggestion to change the orientation of the proposed administrative building that will be at the Commons 90 degrees. Our engineer has drafted, this is the original. Again, we are in conceptual design, just conceptual. We're not even at 10%. So the answer that we need today is to finalize orientation of the building, because we have to go out, and correct me if I'm wrong, Stephen, we have to core, do core borings on where the footers would be of the building. So we have figure 1, which is the original, and then figure 2, which is the modified. So ultimately, we're looking for
Is
your.
2 page 156?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because you asked me about. I went and looked. I like 156 better. It's me.
What is that the,
Modified.
Page 156. I guess that's 2.
156 is modified.
is the modified?
Yeah, I like the modified.
You like 156?
Page 156, the next page. down.
Last things. I'll just look on here because I get frustrated.
That's the one I like. What you're looking at right now.
The red line, 156, right?
There's,
This is the one that I personally prefer.
God, I hate to say that we might agree on something here, but
Thank
I
God.
somewhat agree, not you, I'm looking at Chelsea. I wanted to talk to Chelsea, and I somewhat agree with her on this, is that looking at this down the road and we get other amenities in the park, should we ever get amenities in the park, we're kind of looking at the back side, and I don't know if it's a view we want to have. That's why I kind of like that other one, which puts the backside looking at the front of Hampton Park. And it's not going to be in our park. The bad one about this is that I hate, and this could be worked with, I told Stephen about it, that road and putting in all that paving for that big loop around and all that.
We all agree on that.
That's got to be fixed.
Wait a minute.
But that's later. Right now, we're talking layout. And that layout of the building in this orientation, at least to me, would be the better choice of the two evils, because it doesn't put.
Didn't you recommend this shift in the first place, Mr.? This was your recommendation to move to shift this.
I didn't realize,
Gotta
I
change our
didn't realize
There's-
anybody had that short of or long of a memory.
Which is fine, because now we look at what it might look like if it was alternate.
Yeah.
alternate, Whatever, but
Yeah, I thought it just looked better going Gateway Boulevard to see it. And every time I've ever heard Ed say something with the fun park, he spits. So, I didn't think he'd ever do anything to improve the park.
Again, I'm trying to take, and if we build something in there, I don't want to take and have an ugly view looking at it from the backside.
so
And then
here-
also here, like, to me, so this area here, we can add something and hide it. If we had it the other way, they will see the parking lot. Like if you go back,
Oh,
and they're from the road, and you couldn't do anything because there's not enough. See,
you have very little room for expansion.
Stephen, one
so
question.
you couldn't
because
block it.
that's going to act all of this. You and I talked about this. I have never heard in my life any setback requirements for a road.
There's not. We confirmed it.
We confirmed that?
Yes.
Oh, good. I thought it was just Florida and not up north.
But there is a setback off of the turn in. It's a 150-foot setback.
Yeah, that's
So
what
that
that's
means you have to
talking about.
you have to do a loop-de-doo.
Yes.
Are you talking about where we enter?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So Lee County, and Eric Fye is on the call as well, so he might be able to answer this more. But we chose the location of the driveway based on two things. One, staff, maybe board or everyone doesn't want to go through the pool. It wants to be its separate driveway. Can we agree on that? Or
Yes.
okay, so we're not going through the pool. The only other option is come off of Gateway Boulevard. We can't do that. So we're coming off the the only other available option, which is through the existing Commons driveway. And we confirmed with Lee County DOT, and their land development code requires that this driveway be offset 150 feet, I believe, from Gateway
Is
Boulevard.
that to avoid queuing on the boulevard?
Yeah, it's just access management. So it has to be located where it is shown.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why that driveway
That's why you
is,
see that
is shown
in
there.
both.
And what I would
iterations.
say to this too is in the original layout, it gives us that property from the road, from the new entrance to Gateway Boulevard, and that little section where the loop goes around. That
Yeah.
gives us room for what I consider administrative growth in the future. You know, however we determine to use it.
Yeah, that's the intent. That loop on the top, it was intentionally drawn for something in the future maybe be going there. Like, we don't have a comprehensive future site plan for this, so we don't have a lot to work on. So we're trying to plan for, some future expansion while developing
We
this.
do not want to limit ourselves for 20 years down the road. So again, we're just looking on the direction on the orientation of the building. Yes. So I don't want to get into the weeds of the details, but if we could just pick an orientation, and we'll come back at 30% design for the board's review and input.
So the choice between original and modified.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I need a motion.
Can we do just a quick?
What's the motion?
Can we do just a quick, I think after a conversation, I think I like the original layout.
I like the modified.
Original.
Ed, what, do you have a preference?
I'll go with the original.
Original.
Carol? Carol's muted.
Carol.
Oh, hold
Carol,
on.
you're muted.
Carol's muted.
Can you unmute her?
Am I unmuted?
Yes,
You're
ma'am.
good now. Yes. Carol.
Okay, I like the modified.
Okay. All right. So I will make a motion that we move forward with the building orientation of the new administrative building at the Commons in the original version.
3-2.
A second.
I'll second.
Okay, so call for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, original 1, 3-2.
Yeah. I mean, I like both,
Okay,
but
I do too. So it's not that big a deal.
Okay, so we'll bring back to you 30% design when we get there, and we do have a Gantt chart. We just want to review it, and that'll be part of the
Where did we
next.
come with the parking lot, the number of parking spots? How did that come? This seems awful big compared to what we got out here.
So on just really on the modified
So repeat.
version, what is in red would be excess beyond the required amount. The Eric, if he's on, I think we're required like 32 parking spots, but we would like to plan ahead. And as we progress through design, if we need to cut those parking spots back and we just do the bare minimum, then we'll do the bare minimum.
Can you just put the original, can you put the original back on?
The cost is the driver to me. I mean, I don't want to put a future.
We have a budget that we must stay within.
Do you have the original?
Yeah, the original doesn't.
I don't know if you can hear me, but that parking calc is correct. 33 is what we calculated. That's preliminary.
All right, thank you, Eric.
And the number that we're at right now per our bond deal was 3 million on the nose. Is that the number? 3 million?
I think it's around that. I'd have to go back and look at the supplemental.
So to cut, I mean, it's not the time, but I believe that we do not need that whole entire road to go to the employee parking lot. If we're gonna cut it, I prefer to have the more parking the way it is and move the employee parking lot
into
the main parking lot,
And then you can
or
always
just
move it.
cut that road and make it come right through next to the building.
The only problem with that road, and this is a downside with this one, but it's a downside with both of them, is all of your mechanical, your trash pickup, everything is on the backside, which necessitates a road somehow to get around to the backside to pick this up.
But then you also got to turn
That's
around
the
back
problem.
there too. But don't you got to turn around back there? And I don't see any ability to turn around back
Again, this is conceptual. We'll get through design.
We're gonna have one of those spin tables like they have in a railroad.
Without building parking, but just looking at the parking lot on the original, I came up with 56. I heard someone say it was only 30 spots.
We're required by
62,
code
I
with
think.
the existing, with this to have 33 parking spots.
So this is intentionally greater than that? right
Yes.
now? Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
So
good.
Look and see what it does.
All right.
Hey, and can I just make one quick thing? So
Yeah.
on our employee parking, it's covered. If we were to look at alternatives, so we didn't have to have that road, if on the one side, which is closest to the entrance, I know like if you look at the school over here, they have a covered pathway. So you park your car in the open, but you quickly get to a covered area that takes you all the way through the entrance. That could be something that we look at,
Yep.
you know, because again, we get a lot of rain. We want people covered. It may not require us to do, you know, those number of covered isolated spots.
The umbrella, I'll get you one.
Okay. I don't own one. All right.
Sounds like a lot of money. to
Is
me.
that?
No. You're missing my point. So
Okay.
we've got a whole covered area. So the employee parking in the back is a covered parking area. You drive into it.
On this one?
Yes.
Yeah, right back
That,
there.
all that,
covered
that's
parking.
covered area in the back. And we have a road that goes around to it. If we were looking to save money, we could potentially eliminate that road and take away that parking in the back, in the rear. So we don't need covered spots for every parking space. We could just do something more cost effective, just like a canopy like they have over the school, just on that one side that takes you directly into the building. I think it would, it might end up being the
So you
same
walk
cost.
from
I
the
don't know.
car-
I'll wait till I see it because I'd question employee covered parking.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of, I think I'm gonna go in it with you. And I remember Bill with this, we don't have it for our trucks.
That is what the intent would be.
Okay, so this employee parking, it's for our own vehicles.
For
It's
gateway.
not your personal vehicles.
Correct.
So your personal vehicles will go in the main parking space.
Well, I'd still question. That's a
Well, and
truck,
again,
whatever.
we're conceptual. Once we
Yeah,
get through,
okay.
that may be the first thing that gets cut.
Okay.
All right.
But keep in mind again, you gotta be able to get a dumpster
Yes.
back there
Yeah.
to pick up the trash.
Anyway, you guys will think all through this.
As we're
So-
factoring through this, are we going to offer Tesla type parking in there somewhere?
Yeah,
No, I'm serious. Is that,
no.
looking in the future, electric parking, now's the time to put it in, not
2
looking at it
years,
later.
2 years, those things will be a dinosaur.
You're crazy.
They will, they will.
All right.
What do you
Okay.
think the power's coming
That
to
is
boot get
something
those?
we can look into
I just,
as part of the design of this.
Now's the time to do it rather than dig it up after we build it.
So maybe you'll let us keep that one additional parking spot and let it be a
I don't know.
Tesla charger.
Think about it.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so
Moving
G,
on.
Going
All right.
on.
So as part of the review of the North Haven discussion, we were looking back at the permit criteria manual, and in reviewing of FPL bills and the aerator projects and everything else going on, our permit criteria manual actually says that we should be doing solar powered aerators and that the board would have to approve anything other than solar powered. So Keith, I'll turn it over to him. He had this grand idea to do a pilot project and I'll let him expound on it.
Well, excuse me, what says it has to be solar powered?
The permit criteria manual,
Wonder how Pelican got away with not doing it.
the board approved it.
Well, the
We need
permit
to
criteria.
reexamine that.
I
Okay.
think that was an amendment about 3 or 4 years
No,
ago.
it's before that.
Was it before that? Okay.
All right, go ahead.
So I received price proposals from Superior for both aerator styles. This would be for Lake 117 in Gateway Greens, which was our recent fish kill pond, and we've had continuous algae issues in that pond as well. So we thought it would be a good one for the pilot to see how the solar powered aerators do function. So I've done an analysis based on a 10-year projection, which you have on your screen. And it does work out to where if everything goes as analyzed, the solar unit is actually less expensive over a 10-year period. That's based on an escalation of electricity of about 13% a year, which is what we just received from FPL notifying us for next year.
Yeah, but I don't think it's realistic. Well, that's just 1 year, you're saying? That's not 13% a year,
It's
right?
13% a year increase for
I don't think it's
electricity.
realistic.
They'll never get that approved.
No,
The problem I got with
that
it
is actually
is everything I
but
read.
it's every 4 years. If I'm not mistaken, the increase from FPL is every 4 years.
annual.
Annual 13%?
Yes.
That's what they want. They got a
No, that
lot
was
of,
approved.
they got a lot of stuff to get it approved to get that every year for those number of years.
Well, it was approved for next year, so I use that as a hypothetical
No, I'm
percent
not faulting
increase.
the
Yeah.
methodology. I just don't believe it.
I don't have any problem with an experimental trying to go with the solar, but a lot of stuff that I read is that it's not for these big applications. So I want to make sure whose equipment are we using and who's used this at a large scale that we can get the pros and cons from somebody. Have we talked to a company or another HOA or a CDD that's done solar versus electrical
Is this
and
mature
have
enough
been down this
to
road?
know?
It is being used. I don't want to put Superior on the spot, but that is who I got the price proposal from, and they have installed the system. So I will get with him and get some historical data for what pond sizes it was used on.
Because I'd be wanting, if I'm going to have aeration and the whole deal is to have aeration, what are we doing for the backup? What's the backup
The backup
to
for
solar? If it doesn't
it has
work,
battery backup.
battery backup.
Mhm.
Okay.
It runs 24 hours a day in theory, unless there's some kind of strange weather event.
So the solar's feeding a battery that's charging.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the differential on this, on the capital cost was 9,000 versus 17 or something like that. As I recall seeing on there.
The initial install cost is only around $2,000 difference up front.
Okay. I must have missed something. I
Yeah,
thought I saw that
17,
one.
yeah.
I thought it was 17.
and 15.
Okay, where did that 15? Because I didn't see that. I thought I saw 7,000 or something.
The 15,000 is supported within the documentation. That's the cost of the solar. You're talking about the electric aerator unit?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the cost of the electric aerator.
Okay,
and
go to the page that had the electric deal, because I could have swore I saw 7,000.
You did. That's the cost of the aerator, but the electricity to get to it was the delta. If you want to, I don't have it. It'll have a big cover page on it that says electric.
But what you got to do is you've got to do a 10-year, 15-year, whatever cost equivalency study if you're going to bring in the power in addition to compare it to the capital.
There's nothing showing up.
I see that deal.
No.
Keep going.
Yeah, there was a single page. Yeah, here's
32.
page 161, because I had battery backup, 17,551 capital cost for parts and labor for the solar, correct?
Correct.
17,551.
Correct.
Okay, and I also saw for the electric. Got
Whoa.
more information here you can shake a stick at. I swore I saw
Electric
some-
capital cost was 15,616.
Okay, I thought I saw a page.
Keep going.
There we go.
There we go. There we go. So there.
It's,
Yeah.
I see 90, what am I looking here? 9,500.
Correct. Well, we have
Page 190.
so the equipment cost for the electric unit is, I don't have my glasses. but it's
6,116. That's what I saw.
And then below that, there's a cost proposal for the electricity to get to that unit, which is $9,500
Capital cost to get the electric
to
to
get
the unit.
to get a new
Okay.
meter and the conduit to the unit.
Okay, so the offsite capital cost. Okay, I see what you're doing now.
Mhm.
That's not a energy cost analysis.
No, sir.
Okay.
The energy analysis is on the right-hand side of the spreadsheet.
So when you have these two that are that close on capital, now all of a sudden the operating cost comes into play.
Yes. So again, this would be a pilot project that we would test in Gateway Greens at the fish pond.
On 117.
Again, I'd like to see someplace that where this equipment, similar to this,
Mhm.
size wise, is
Mhm.
going in or has gone in, and talk to the people who put it in and have them say, hey, we did this analysis. In other words, they've been down the road. Why do we want to reinvent the wheel? If they've done it and it's been successful and they see it's successful, then I don't have a problem. But everything I read scares me on solar.
Well,
I can do that.
if I could ask Andy not to step up, because he's been dealing with aeration in Pelican for 5-6 years now.
Andy's the one that supplied us the quotes, and I didn't want to put him on the spot.
No, that's okay. I don't mind putting them on the spot. And he steered us to electric 5 or 6 years ago. And I don't remember what the particulars were, but what's the latest and greatest? Do you have a high degree of confidence? And do we have comparable?
The problem with solar and
If you could identify
Andy
yourself.
Knott, Superior Waterway,
Thank you.
is in Florida, we can't guarantee how much sunlight you're going to get. Like today, there's probably not enough sun today to charge your batteries and run the compressor. But when you have sunny days, they work great. So they're weather dependent is your biggest downfall to them. It requires more diffusers. But like you said earlier, they're not for large scale project. This lake here is a decent size, it's a smaller lake, which,
That's what I thought.
is okay. But if you start doing large scale projects, the cost becomes really exponentially higher than doing electric units.
With solar?
Yes, because you start having to put more and more compressors and more cabinets. This cabinet has 4 batteries in it. It has 2 big solar, decent sized panels and 1 small compressor. So if you go anything bigger, now next thing you got to have another cabinet with 4 more batteries and 1 small compressor and 4 more, 2 more panels.
What's
So
the size of the solar on this particular lake?
this is a 4 diffusers. It's a quarter horsepower compressor, but it's
What's the solar
I
panels?
had to measure.
Ballpark.
2 4x6 panels.
They're
2
4.
4x6, and that's gonna be right there on that lake in that curve in the middle of our community. You wanna see me get shot.
Well,
I just don't, that's the
yeah.
problem I think you're gonna run into, is the public is gonna listen. This isn't a solar farm, it's our houses.
Well, the other part of it is, I mean, you mentioned quarter horsepower. We put in some quarter horse and half horse, and
Mainly,
3/4.
yeah.
But now we've standardized at a half, mainly just because of the maintenance headaches of trying to keep all these different sizes. It just doesn't work. And, the electric is reliable 100% of the time. I can't keep my side lights working with solar, but I don't know that that's a good reflection, but it creates a,
And the thing with solar, there's only 2 manufacturers that are really doing solar. Vertex was in it, then they were out. Now they're trying to get back in it. Casco was in, they're out, but now they're making just a solar array. And there are some other people, but as far as the equipment, this is probably the best on the market as far as the efficiency of it and the size of the panels. The next people go up to, 13 feet long worth of panels to run a lake this big. So this is, as far as if you're going to go solar, this is the unit to use.
But this still will take 2 4x6 panels. So
that's okay.
And so
I'm still glad we're electric.
and the impact is you're dependent on the weather.
Yes.
If you have, unfavorable weather, you're not gonna have aeration, which depending that could or could not have.
Yeah.
Pretty
When you look at
significant
that factor, that's kind of
Yeah.
inconsequential because
Yeah.
sooner or later sunshine's coming.
Yeah. But the other thing is, what's the typical point of failure on these? Is it damage to the solar panels? Is it compressor issues?
The compressor's probably gonna be the most wearable item. The solar panels are, we don't have a data how long they're gonna last, but the ones we put them out there. I mean, in Florida, I've only installed 3 or 4 of them. The panels should last you 10, 15 plus years. I think they come with a 10-year warranty, I think, on the panels. The batteries, the batteries are warranted for 3 years, but it's a deep cycle battery, and as you charge them and decharge them and recharge them in the heat, there's no guarantee how long they're going to last.
And Keith, just really quick, 'cause I had to step out, I'm sorry. And the reason why going down this path is it the cost of running electric to the location?
The cost of running electric and the requirement in the permit manual.
Okay, we can get rid of
That can be changed.
Permit
real quick,
manual, I
like,
don't have a problem with changing that.
Yeah, we'll change that. You've been to that site, correct?
Yes.
You got 60-foot oaks
Yes, sir.
all around that. What's the angle of the panels? What's the
South.
facing?
It's going to be facing south.
West?
It's going to be kind of, I think I have to get southwest a little bit. But you're right, you are going to be challenged a little bit.
Those trees, those 60-foot oaks on the west side of the road, I mean, you get past 3:30 in the afternoon, there's no more sun.
Yeah, I think
It's all in shade.
Yeah.
That's what's got me concerned
Wow.
on this particular pond. Big ponds, I'm just totally against this. I don't think it's going to work. Smaller ponds, like you've just already said, there's an opportunity. It's just where's the best place to put it?
Well, in that lake, that's your only easement, I believe. And there's not a lot of places on a lake to put one.
I know there's no place to put really.
It's not going to be in somebody's yard or across the street or something.
Well, the whole thing is that whole pond, the whole length of that pond is oak trees,
Correct.
both on the other side of the road and on the same side of the road. The only place to where, and your picture shows it on the aerial, is about where you put it. My only deal is that is, from my understanding of how the solar works, that sure as hell isn't the best place to be putting it.
Yeah, I mean,
But it's about the only place.
If you want to do a solar, trial, and maybe there's another smaller pond somewhere with more sunlight or something that would
I'd
be a
like,
better fit.
I'd much rather. do
I
it.
generally like pilot plants, but I mean, this one just pick a different pond maybe.
Because
Yeah,
here's the reason I like the idea of the solar on the smaller ponds. Some of these smaller ponds we're going to get to, finding electrical, $9,500 will be a drop in the bucket to get power to it.
And that's where we look, that's where we would draw the line at too.
Yeah.
We would look at, before we recommend solar or electric, we look at the cost of getting electric there. If it's reasonable, then we normally lean towards the electric because it's more reliable. But where you find people putting solar in is where you can't get power.
Did you verify with FPL that this transformer had the ability to provide the power?
I think the Bentley was electrician.
Somebody did check that.
So the internal cabinets, compressors, all that kind of neutral to whether the power source, solar or hard electric, doesn't make any difference.
As far as what now?
The internal components of the aeration system in the cabinet,
Yes,
other than the electrical source, everything else is common.
pretty much. It's just different size compressors.
Oh, you do have different. Okay.
Yeah, so the when you're doing the solar, they're smaller. They're not a piston. I think some of them are linear pumps. It's a different design to get more air out of a smaller compressor to draw less power because they're 24 volts. So
Okay.
and then so
To
inside,
me, that's a negative, but okay.
so inside the solar, you're going to have the 4 batteries. You're going to have a controller, and you're going to have the compressor. And then you're going to have the 2 solar panels, and then they're going to tie into the controller, which will charge batteries and run the compressor.
It
at the
just
same time.
compounds the maintenance. So it's
Yeah,
more and more
I think
parts
we've talked about this quite
Yeah.
a bit. I think what Bob said is he'd love to get some information on communities that are using solar. How viable is it? But I think we look at another opportunity to potentially pilot down the road. I just don't think this lake is an optimal choice.
We will go back, review,
Okay.
perhaps get some other ponds or
Well,
We have
as we
some other
expand
alternatives.
aeration, this is going to be a big
Yes.
deal.
I mean, like an ideal place might be like right here, like the small one right here in
90.
front of
Our
the,
boat launch pod.
yeah, our butt launch.
That would be.
Because
perfect.
you can put the panels, it doesn't make a big difference.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to test something, that would be,
That would be a good one. Yeah.
we'll come back.
Okay. Not opposed to it.
Well, I think
Not solar.
when we get out and away from main power, the power, like you said earlier, is going to be the giant in the room.
You're not
Because
kidding.
that's going to be expensive.
All right.
So the next is the monthly reports. Because Laura's on a time crunch and has to be out of here by 5, I'll let her kind of touch on one item that we have kind of as part of financials and monthly reports.
Sorry, Tony. I received an invoice from Tony dated November 30th. It has charges on it that go back to April 4th. You guys don't have it in your book. I have it here. It has charges that go back to April of 2022, and it's for the Fortiline litigation. The problem that I have is this is a mix of fiscal 22 and 23 charges. Of the little over $20,000 on the bill, 16,000 of it is from fiscal 22 and 4,500 of it is from fiscal 23. We only have $10,000 in the budget for utilities, legal services for fiscal 23. So I need some direction from the board how to pay for this bill. It would have to be a reserve draw. So I'm recommending to transfer some money from the
Flip of a
reserves
coin.
to transfer it from there.
Flip of a coin.
Yeah, it would have to come out of reserves. So, but I need permission in order to do that.
What about reducing the
Pay,
bill?
pay as you exit.
So I'm going to
reducing
request
I haven't adjusted
that
dollars before, so-
I'm going to be better next year towards the end of the year to remind our vendors that they need to get me their bills before the end of the fiscal year. You're not the only one. I had problems with some other vendors as well.
That's a point well
So
taken.
No
yeah,
ticky, no laundry.
I understand, point well taken.
So if we could get a verbal approval to.
transfer.
And then we'll come back with the ratification.
I'll make that motion.
So the point of why we're bringing it down.
Oh, the point of why we're bringing it now? Oh yeah, because we have 45 days to pay the bill per the Florida Sunshine Law, and in order for us to be able to get the check processed and cut
I'm
in
not gonna
time,
give you
if
guys
we
a hard
wouldn't.
time.
I know, but we want to make sure we treat everybody fairly.
Prompt Payment Act.
So
Yes.
yes, the Prompt
Okay,
Payment
so we
Act.
have
We
a
want to make
motion.
sure
I will
we.
second it.
The
Second,
prompt billing act.
we'll call the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Well taken, yes.
So we have the administrative monthly report. You'll see that over the past month or two that some of the projects that were previously reported as part of the admin monthly report are now in the Public Works monthly report because we have a Public Works director who's overseeing said projects. So if you have any questions about the administrative, if not, we'll go on to the next department.
I have no questions.
I didn't
Anybody
have
else?
anything.
No.
Okay. And next we have the Public Works, and I know Mr. Gippert has some questions on project updates for Keith.
Go. First one is the construction gate.
Yeah, the
Or the
access road,
construction road. the-
Pelican
the
Bridge
various
access,
gates.
yeah.
And do we know how those, the gates in Pelican side were damaged? I mean, the metal's just torn apart.
The hatch, the latch.
Not
on
only
the
that,
gate.
that's destroyed.
Yeah,
The latch itself.
the latch,
But there was no retention to the ground.
right.
So the gates are very flexible and people will seem to be pushing them with something.
What happened?
That's
Well,
what
we
I'm
don't,
trying to
we
find
don't
out.
know exactly what happened, but the bottom line is that when the new gate controller gets installed, all that equipment and that latch will be irrelevant and it'll be removed.
Did somebody try to open the gate
It's possible.
with a vehicle?
I mean,
Maybe,
no, this is kind of high up. Maybe the vehicle.
maybe they
elements are
pushed it
lower,
or something. Yeah,
but I'm
but we don't
talking
know.
pretty high up.
Yeah, we're not really sure
And
what
I don't know if
happened.
we have an opportunity to put a camera there that kind of, monitors it in a loop. And we can see who's damaging it. Because I thought it was only our people going through there.
You can get those motion detector cameras.
Something.
It-
Just consider it. I mean, if it keeps getting damaged, because it's going to look like
I
crap.
think once the
Yeah.
final gates are in, that it'll deter a lot of, if
Yeah.
any of
Okay.
these issues.
And they'll have arm closures, so you won't be able to push them like you can now.
Okay. So you think it'll be finished when? Totally finished with everything?
First of the year, that's our hopes. Yeah, we're
Okay.
still having issues with FPL getting the second transformer in.
All right.
Lots of luck.
The Pelican Reserve Boulevard, Cypress Grove lighting. Where-
Cypress Grove Lighting, we are waiting on West Coast Lighting to schedule the work.
So they've
They're
got the
waiting on
bid.
materials. Yeah, they're waiting on their materials.
Okay. The Avila Road. Oh, that's not you. Never mind.
Yes, it is.
It is.
Oh, it is. Avila Road.
Avila
Okay.
Road,
Construction last time I was told
bids were
starting.
received.
January.
Baness Contracting was the low bidder. So we'll be bringing that to the board here first of the year
For approval.
for
of the
approval
funds.
of the funds for the contract.
Has PPAC approved it yet?
No, that's where we'll be bringing it first.
Oh,
I'm
you said the
assuming.
board,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
So
I'm sorry.
after PPAC in January, then it'll come to us. All right. I was really glad to see the generator installed at the gatehouse. How long before we get the gas line to it?
I met with Tico on Monday and they said 2 months.
That's pretty fast for that.
Generator at the,
Okay, our guard shack, security hut, when the community loses power, they lost power. So we not only lost the power in there with the computers and get people in and out, functioning the gates, but we also have some satellite cameras that watch other areas.
yeah.
Well,
So,
we had 4 or 5 vehicle thefts because those cameras weren't working.
so what are you using for power?
Now we're gonna have a natural gas generator.
Natural gas, okay.
So they've installed a Generac unit right behind, within the confines of the guard shack.
Just ballpark, what was that cost?
The generator is 15,000. Tico's going to be about 4.
So about $20,000.
How many KW is it?
18.
18?
It's pretty small,
And
actually.
they gave us a pretty good deal because it had a hot water heater there that Laura found all kind of
Yeah.
incentives for us.
I was able to save money from having the gas line run. If we converted the existing electric water heater to a gas water heater, it knocked it down to about $2,000, I think. So plus the cost of the water heater.
So, thank you very much for that update. That's all I got.
You're welcome.
We're gonna be getting a generator at our place.
What's the next step with our lighting proposal?
So Eric was putting together a proposal for the $15,000, the design portion.
Okay.
And I'm waiting, I sent him the information he needed, like our tax exempt number and things like that. So I'm waiting on the proposal from him. And we already had your authorization. So as soon as that gets in, I'll sign it and get on its merry way.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
All right, any other for Public Works? All right, and last but not least, any for utilities?
Nothing for me.
Kenny gonna come up and talk to us or?
Well, Kenny Hall, Utility Director. I do have one thing that wasn't on there. Today, FTEP came in and did their first inspection. We are no longer under the Department of Health's purview. it is now Florida FDEP. They do a pretty expansive review. They're going to be doing it twice a year. We went through today. It was about a half an hour process. They did it was more like a clerk inspection in the military where they wanted to see all of our documentation. They went so far as to actually look at our calibration on our handhelds. It was pretty expensive for them. So that's Department of Health is out. They no longer are our regulatory agency. It is now strictly FDEP. And that was it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Not digging any big holes anywhere or needing major valves or?
Not at the moment. We're kind of, usually in December, we kind of hold the line. Vendors are really hard to come by. All through December, it doesn't really usually clear out until about January 15th.
Fire hydrants.
Unless it's on fire, greatly leaking, we usually do not have the vendors available for the month of December.
So one of the things that staff is working on this month and next is coming up with a comprehensive CIP. We've kind of already done that with the bond for the general fund, but working on updating, like putting together an equipment and vehicle CIP. And then in the utility side, trying to separating projects from equipment. It seems like we've flown by the seat of our pants and just kind of, as things have broke down, we've had to move money out of reserves. And so we're trying to put together a comprehensive CIP list for both projects and equipment and vehicles, and as well as like a wish list in the future, so we can properly budget for those types of things moving
Well, our
forward.
capital reserve guy's going to want that stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Big
So,
time.
and same goes, we're going to extend that to Pelican and get them kind of thinking of the same thing. I know they've been discussing potential road resurfacing projects and things like that. So if we can get everybody on the same page, that's one of the things that we've been working on internally. So.
Good.
All right.
All right, so District Attorney?
Yes, I don't know if you want me to go down to them or if any questions about what's on the status of some of the projects we're working on. I do have some other items to mention that are not on there. One is, and this would be a requested action item as part of the first bond issue. Rhonda's trying to get a credit rating, and so S&P Global is an entity that does a credit rating, and Rhonda's put together a package for that. And we wanted to get that off today, so we asked authorization to ratify Chelsea signing that document, that agreement, as well as authorizing the chair and or Chelsea in the future to execute any such agreements with vendors necessary to implement the first supplemental bond issue.
And the dollar amount is within the district manager's threshold.
Right, but I just want to make sure because it's
Yeah.
part of the overall supplemental.
Yes.
So that would be an action item. We would request that authorization for Flavia as chair and Chelsea as manager to sign any other necessary agreements to fast track proceed with the supplemental bond issue.
I'll make that
First
motion.
series.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The validation went successfully. I dragged everybody down to the courthouse and it went uneventful. And so we have to wait until January 6th. If no appeal is filed, we get a certificate of no appeal, then we continue forward. But I appreciate everybody's assistance on that. It was a good team effort. I have the list. You want me to go down to the list? Do you have any questions about anything on the list?
I'd like to hear about the infrastructure.
I'm getting there.
Okay.
I have some graphics for you I wanted to share with you afterwards. What I'm doing, I'm diving through old boxes and I'm actually handing off sets of plans that I have. I don't know if the district has these old plans from '03. They were part of requisitions. And this is a project that Stephen Tetra put together for Pelican Reserve to show easements and in the green and the red. The green are the district easements and the red are Pelican Reserve Community Association or the golf course. So the question remained as to certain other aspects. Does the district have the requisite easement? By way of example, I added the grant of easement for the entry features in blue. So I'm modifying it that way. Going to the boxes and looking at the requisition, a question arose, for example, at Bellagio, entrance of Bellagio and Pelican Reserve Boulevard. Track C and B were indicated as being dedicated to the association.
That individual HOA?
Yes.
Bellagio, okay.
No, that development. This is Bellagio Drive. Now, in going to the records, there was an assignment of the dedications that went from the PPCA to the district. So these are district assets.
Now we know that.
Doesn't
Yes.
your GIS show that?
Yes.
I was gonna say,
Well-
I hope.
It doesn't,
No.
Not
I mean,
as
doesn't
because-
show the kind of research he's doing.
So the Austin will
You
take this,
just go
I
with
assume.
LIPA, you don't.
He will take and update the GIS because this is based upon plats and other documents. And another example is this is on, I'm not sure exactly, it's across from a villa. Again, the same issue, it shows that there's tracks are the PPCA's tracks, but the dedication of those has been signed to the district. So I'm just going through the requisitions one by one today. These are just
Are
examples.
these for the board? Yeah.
Yeah, but
I'm sure
I don't
Bob
have
would like to
enough.
have one.
And I'll get one
Well,
from Bob.
to answer Ed's point, the problem was when we went to LIPA, it looked just too
Same
simple.
issue we talked about.
Yeah,
before.
and all of a sudden you thought it was somebody else's, but we were maintaining.
Yeah, there,
So we needed to get
their
either.
stuff isn't perfect
And-
either.
And this comprehensive list that Tony is putting together was at the request of the PPAC.
Yeah.
It's a
And
not to exceed budget of 5,000.
with an, yes,
In
and
a
all,
timely fashion as far as invoices.
yes,
Timely went
as
away
quickly
a lot
and
last
yes, timely as possible. Now, keeping in mind that this does impact the O&M discussion and updating that. It impacts our landscaping contract and making sure that we're maintaining what were our district assets, looking potentially in the future at irrigation. So this, although it's time consuming, is imperative and moving forward. And we hopefully will do that same thing here on the Gateway side once Tony can come up for air.
Is LBE landscape buffer, is
Yes.
that it?
Yeah, and again, there were, during the days of the original development, there may have been dedications on the plat to the Pelican Reserve Community Association, or it was called Sun City Center
So
Right.
it's,
at the time. But then as part of the requisition package, WCI, Sun City Center Community Association, assigned those dedications, like landscaping, irrigation sprinkler system, and signage in these tracks, for example, to the district.
So you're going to the plats to get this?
No, I'm going to the requisition boxes that has,
Plats don't show it.
correct.
That's why we got to do this.
That's why it's this very
Yes.
time consuming.
It's,
Very time.
there's a number of boxes, the requisition packages were about this thick, included record drawings or as found.
Had it been done appropriately as these changes occurred, no big deal.
Yeah, and I don't know where the district's sets are, if they have them still, if they're up in,
I've been in that room.
They're in the hot box.
are they all up there? Okay. The requisitions,
So anyway, thank you very much. Can't wait to have it done.
thank you.
It's
And-
very important for the community, and as Chelsea said, so we get the O&M correct.
And Mr. Gippert is on top of Tony on this item.
Yes, it'll make things easier for us moving forward and even other district things as we go forward for, like Chelsea said, contracts. and stuff.
So.
Kind of nice to have this
Yes.
information.
Yes,
Yeah.
very, very much so. So then, I guess in the same respect that Mr. Banks requested of Tetra Tech moving forward in the future, we don't want any TBDs on,
I heard that loud and clear.
Tony's
And also, I will
document
try to
item.
do a better job at my cells as far as the lines.
so there are a handful of other miscellaneous smaller items that Tony and I are working on. And staff just in general, oddball things come up. So we're juggling as best we can considering holidays and other constraints that are.
And one other item, we talked about doing the Sunshine Law presentation today, but if you want to wait until the next,
Yes,
board
well,
meeting.
that'll be at the next, typically that would happen after the first meeting that the new members take office. Things happened and we'll get that
I've got it,
scheduled
but I
for,
think it's better for the next board meeting.
we'll schedule it for January.
Carol will be
Okay.
here then too.
And
Okay.
one other comment for Tony, and that has to do with the boardwalk in Conservation Area 6.
Yes,
PPAC still needs, wants, and is hoping to get a definition of who can go in there.
yeah, Chelsea, I know Laura communicated with me today on that, or last couple of days with regards to that. I'll drag up my old memo that I have with regards to the extensive discussion we had. And then you also had that meeting had with South Florida as to what they were
Yeah.
inclined to do or not to do.
And I'll refresh for the board that we had a blanket, nothing other than pedestrian traffic, which is kind of what we're implementing right now, without regard to ADA and the various stipulations within there that you can't just make it for pedestrians. And when we went to South Florida, they didn't entertain that at all. They didn't want to hear it. They only wanted to talk about their little portion of the pie, and that is nothing but pedestrians. So we're trying to get from one radical position to another more manageable position. and including, we're going to offer some alternatives, hopefully, to P-PAC in their January, but no later than February meeting.
Who's we?
Safety and security within, or
Okay.
ponds within P-PAC.
Yeah, and so the timeline is then for the January PPAC, an updated memo on the access.
They'd like to have the updated memo.
Okay.
But then there's one step beyond that is, can we offer an alternative to South Florida Water Management to alter the permit to allow limited access in one specific area of golf carts where people could get out of their golf cart, get into a wheelchair, and then go visit the rest of the areas. So we're trying to come to some kind of a compromise that'll be acceptable to them.
So ultimately, that conversation will happen at the PPAC level with a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors for their final recommendation on how directing the district council and district staff on how to proceed through South Florida Water Management District,
Yes.
or whatever method you guys
Yes.
see fit.
Yeah, because that alternative was part of the discussion earlier.
Well, no, the new alternative, they've, South Florida.
Oh, I know we've talked about it.
Yeah, we've talked, but this is something new to them.
Okay.
So there'll be a limited access on the Sienna side, et cetera. So
And I'll get rid of TBDs.
that's, that's all I've got for you. Thank you very much.
All right, so next item is 14, future board business.
Chelsea, can you add for one of the, well, maybe we could probably do it on the next board meeting, just an agenda item to identify and appoint board liaisons
Yep.
for committees?
Yep, made a note of that earlier. Yes.
Great,
We'll
thank
get
you.
that to the January 5th meeting.
Okay, and then into that, if Georgia could send out an email to the board presidents asking for volunteers. I know we posted already over there, but I think
For the,
Committee
for the committee,
volunteers.
so we
Yeah.
send it to the board presidents, asking them to forward that to their residents.
Yeah.
So, because I know it's on the website, but I think,
So if we got people who are interested, they should go on to,
the district's website and fill out the application
okay,
and send it through customer care. But yes, we have a flyer that we're gonna distribute for the Parks and Rec,
Okay.
and then any other vacancies we have. Same
Yeah.
goes through with the,
and you might as well just put the link, so
yes.
if you want to do it, pass it on to your residents. If they want to do it, just click the link and then they submit it.
All right, again, I will repeat, if there's any items that you would like staff or district council to be working on, this would be the time to bring it up, get consensus from the board, and potentially pick a future meeting date for it to come back for discussion. So if you have items that you've thought about, or electric charging stations, or whatever it may be, now would be the time to add it, and that way staff can get it put into the schedule and bring it back.
And we're getting
Was
back
this in the
to,
book? I didn't see this in the book.
Should be, yes.
and we're getting back to, and we're getting back to our format if we're trying to have a workshop once a month.
264. Sorry, I'm sorry, Doug.
No, it's okay. And we're trying to get back to our schedule. We're going to try to do a workshop once a month.
Well, that's at the board's direction. If you guys
Yeah.
wish to have a workshop, I will tell you, having these meetings, it's a lot of staff time involved in putting together the packets and things like that. I would kindly request having a workshop in lieu of 2 meetings, or maybe we try it do 3
every
meetings.
other month or something.
Yeah, if you want to do 3 meetings every other month.
Okay.
That's a lot for staff. I don't mind doing that, if we want to try it out for a little bit.
Well, I think one of the big opportunities that I think from a workshop is it gives us the ability to have some open discussion. And so we used to kind of have standing workshops. If we only use 30 minutes,
Okay.
then great. But then that way we can balance the agenda to be able to have an hour workshop.
Or can we just move it up at like an hour we're doing here, where we come in at 2?
For the attorney.
And
That's-
yeah, have it as a workshop preceding a meeting or
Well,
after a meeting,
and
preferably before.
I'm okay with that as long as they're productive and we have items scheduled for the workshop. I don't want to schedule a workshop just to have a
For a
workshop.
full session.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'd rather it, if you have 2 or 3 items that maybe we need direction on, or you guys want to discuss in length.
Yeah, because I think there's even things like, like we need to talk about, there's, we talked about like landscaping styles and just different things that would be nice if we can have just some open discussion around that. So anyway, I don't have any specific topics, but
Well, I would like to have one specifically going back to what's my friend with the easement, not easements, methodology. I
Russ-
still don't, I
Russ
still
Wire.
don't have, yeah, Russ
Oh,
Wire.
Russ Wire?
I still don't have a really good grasp of that.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mind a refresher because the latest thing he put out 2 months ago, I got lost trying to figure it
And I'm
out.
sure Russ would probably, if you schedule time one-on-one with him, he'd probably walk
And
through.
I'm okay to that. If I'm the only one that needs it.
I think both. I think this is something as we gear up for budget season, that this is something that we could request of Russ to come in and give a quick refresher. Same thing with Stephen Bloom, and just, here's a snapshot where we're at a glance, moving forward, next steps.
Because I think this would benefit Carol too. She's new to this process, and that isn't anything but simple way of.
Agreed.
Of doing
I'm still
things.
learning it.
Yeah. Okay.
Where are we? We're big now on these aerators, and we're going to be doing it. Where are we on getting the bathymetric studies?
So we have 10 for this year.
Yeah.
But as part of the 10-year CIP, we, at the workshop at Gateway Greens, we discussed that is a low priority project in the bigger scheme of things. So
But the guy's working on it.
Yeah,
Has he produced a product yet?
it's eminent.
Okay. Well, the reason I brought that up is that we know that we've got a problem on power. Who's meeting with FPL on those 10 ponds, trying to find out how we are going to feed power to these aerators?
We have two essentially aerator projects going on. Tetra Tech is the one for the 10 ponds in the future, but we have current ponds that have aeration that are tied with other stuff that are on the bill. And so we're
What do you
trying
mean, other stuff?
Lighting, monument signs, irrigation. So we're trying to separate. We're trying to separate those.
Yeah, those are probably small potato deals.
Tetra Tech is handling the new.
Okay.
So what?
Because I'm dealing with FPL on other stuff and Turtle on a Rock.
Oh, just
well,
They
hit your
don't
head
do
against the
nothing
wall.
now.
Hit your head
And is
against
it
nothing.
possible, as we're going through this lighting design, would it make perfect sense if we're looking at maybe relocating lights or adding new poles or whatever? Would it make sense to maybe have them also look at aeration?
different group.
Different group.
Yeah,
Different group of folks. We're having the same issues. It's just difficult
We're
to
getting,
get.
we're getting nowhere.
Same here, over there.
Yeah.
We're in a
I
nightmare.
got nothing from them.
Because any of our lights that are out, some of them with you guys, some of them with our own, that have to do with an FPL transformer, our agent, our West Coast Electrical, has no authority to open a transformer.
No.
So the only way you can do it is FPL. And FPL says we have no priority for that, and we're not doing it.
We keep
And our residents are
resubmit
they're
tickets.
living.
That's what we've told folks is submit as many tickets as you possibly can, and hopefully that'll.
They were on site yesterday in Magnolia Lakes, and I got a call from the rep. I had 5 tickets put in, and he says, I'm here to take care of 1 ticket. And I said, I don't have 1, I have 5. He says, well, I'm here to take care of the 1. So he went in, he says he's leaning, I have to send somebody else. And I said, well, so then by this time I just drove and found him. I said, here are my other tickets. I put in actually prior to this, which is just the photo cell needs to be replaced. He refused.
Because
I said, you're already here. So can you call somebody? You're already here. And you have the bucket truck and everything else. He says, no.
Don't even get me started. Comcast same way.
All right.
Madam Chair, just 2 things.
Madam,
Do is have people send emails to the Public Service Commission. That's who regulates FPL. And they may have a complaint, at least try something like that. And the Senate President's daughter, Kathleen Pasadomo from Naples, her daughter is on the PSC. So you may want to send it to Senator Pasadomo's office also. Secondly, if you're going to have workshops.
we have to notice.
Yeah, I think what you may want to do then is look at suggested dates. We can then just do one global,
Please.
amend our annual meeting dates, and then pick the dates we're going to have the workshops, and then just do one as opposed to doing
That would.
6 $200 a pop ahead. So
Yeah.
if you can just get with me, we'll figure
Yeah.
that out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, are we still on agenda items?
Yes.
Okay. In the discussion about the administrative building, it was mentioned that we do not have a master plan for the commons. Is it possible we could add that to also a discussion? I think if we're going to put a major building there, you've already got the pool there. You should have a plan for what the rest of it's going to look like, and also reach out to the communities and find out what they want. What is it you'd like to see on this property? So could we add that as a future agenda item where we can talk about starting to do a master plan for the commons?
So I think it's a twofold answer. We do have a plan that was proposed to us, but I don't think it's in line with what the residents really want. And the goal of having the Parks Committee is for them to do that, come to us and tell us what they want, so then we can then come up with a plan. So I think we're already halfway there.
It would be good if that park committee could get together, look at that plan, look at what we're doing with that building, and see if that layout is workable with what they envision for that space.
So
I think
we had this discussion, and it was, the decision was that this park committee would not focus on that first, that the first thing they would do is the fun part.
Fun park.
I understand, but the only reason I'm bringing that up is because we talked earlier and we're worried about what's going to come up next. I'd hate to get this all done and planned and designed and then find out, well, that's not going to work with what we got as a concept for the deal. Or
Well-
if we had done that, we wouldn't have had to worry about
Well,
that.
there's no way we can,
They aren't gonna
there's
do it
no
that
other way to
fast,
do
though.
it because
Yeah.
everyone is stalled on what there may or may not be in the Commons Park. I think the order of operation is there's going to be administrative building there. With the property that's left,
Yes.
that's what we will build out. But I do agree that we will need a committee because we'll need to go revise and make sure that we've got statistically significant feedback from surveys based on the numbers of residents and all that stuff. And I do agree it's the committee's responsibility. So we start with the fun part and then extend their scope to, because I would imagine what they would probably come up with is this is not the right location for these amenities, and it would be better served in a much larger Commons
That's why
Park
I'd like them to see this plan that we just elected. Have them see that right off the bat with the existing $25,000 plan we had and see if there's any way that we have a fit. Or is this thing so dramatically different because of the siting of the admin building? We got to do a whole new change, but get their input as quick as possible on that before we go out there and start pouring concrete.
I think my 2 cents for what it's worth. There are master planners, park planners, which I think when and if we do get to that point would be a great source to have work in tandem with the Parks and Rec
We
Advisory
paid
Committee.
$25,000 for one.
We did one,
Yeah.
not that long ago.
Well, lesson learned. We clearly need public input throughout that design
Yeah.
process. And we don't want to compete with the private recreational amenities that are out there right now. I think that's the lesson learned from that. $25,000 lesson, but nonetheless a lesson learned. I think to Doug's point, whatever the acreage is that is remaining of the open space would be their restraints. But my opinion is, again, what you voted on today, that in that orientation provides for the most flexibility of the remaining grassy area at the Commons, that will be flexible for whatever you and or your Parks and Rec Advisory Committee so choose. So,
Well, and there are other optional amenities that were not discussed then that we've talked about since.
yes.
That all of that put together, surely there is something that we can come up
And
with.
we've acquired the FPL easement, which again, that could be extended into a linear park. I mean, there's times past, things have changed, and
Things can be done in
I think I agree that getting the concept in front of I know we talked about as part of the first supplemental what passive amenities that could benefit both the park and the admin building, like a pavilion, a covered pavilion, those types of things that we could incorporate as part of this admin building. I think getting the Parks and Rec Advisory input would be prudent as part of that, especially when we go into site development and things like that. So.
All right. Nothing else?
Isn't, yes,
Yes.
isn't there a portion of the actual new administration building that's supposed to be a community center or a community area also? Isn't that the middle section of the
As of right
proposed
now,
building?
Carol, as of right now, we just have the one
The room.
leg of the admin building as the public meeting room, which is the boardroom, and then we have a couple public conference rooms. But that original idea of a community
Center.
building center was just a concept and is not on the table right now.
Oh,
But that's up
so
to the
what are you
board.
putting in the middle then?
That's where the park will go. I see, it's hard for her to say because she doesn't have the original.
She doesn't have the
She doesn't
original
have
bid.
the, so if we can send her the
Okay.
original concept and then so she can somewhat get
Yeah.
an idea.
I'm-
Because you can just gonna move things around and
Yeah.
may add, like Ed's point, may add an item and remove an item.
Yeah.
But I think that'll be beneficial to her so she can see it.
I
She
do
needs to get up to speed.
I have a meeting scheduled with her when she returns to get up to speed on all of these projects. And Carol, I think this is a good one that we could discuss at that time.
That'd be great. I'll see you the 27th.
All right.
All right, so supervisor comments, start with Bob.
Well, the first one is that Pelican Preserve Community Association has engaged a management company called KW to replace Castle Group. Castle and Icon are both gone, so they're trying to consolidate the management companies that they do. A meeting was held this week over here at the district, a meet and greet, get to know each other. So we're starting down that path. Second item of general board interest is that PPAC had their elections a week ago, and John Grega is now the chairman of PPAC, and Randy Bottleson is the vice chair. Grega was the vice chair, and he moved out, and Phil Measy is no longer chairman. So that's going to be an ongoing issue too as a future as we meet and they make decisions. The other impact with KW is the O&M agreement, which is going to be considered by the PPAC representative and Tony and district staff to come up with a consolidated plan of what that O&M document should be as we move forward. So other than that, I did have a question about, in light of Tesla and electric charging stations and things like that, I just wondered whether there was any federal dollars or state dollars that might be available to us to start considering if we wanted to put some of those in common areas like the Sherman Park and the new ad building and things like that.
I think Laura presented something a couple meetings ago, didn't she?
I had looked into it, different programs that like FPL provides, but because of our proximity to the interstate, we didn't. I mean,
We didn't qualify.
We didn't qualify. I'll look at other see if there's any other programs that are available.
Just
that are
if it's
out there.
free money, I mean.
Yeah.
That's all.
And what I've seen also in some other areas, the entities, local government enters into a license agreement. They do an RFP.
Yeah.
So you have a commercial vendor will install. Now they'll charge for it, you know, the use of the particular charging stations, but I've seen that also.
Yeah.
Well, I keep waiting to hear how electric vehicles of owners of electric vehicles are going to pay for road use tax. You know, they're riding around for free and I pay gasoline.
Right. That's what I said.
So I wondered how that's ever going to come to.
Just don't let them get flooded because they do catch on fire.
But that's not our business.
Especially
That's
with
to the
salt.
side. So
Yes.
that's all I've got.
All right, Ed.
Yeah, a couple of things. I saw on the list of things that we're looking at getting rid of is my radar device. What did we find out? Is that equipment?
Kaput, dead.
It's totally dead.
Yes.
What's the cost to replace it? To fix it?
I believe he had it in the report, the cost of
10,000?
rental and then around 10,000 to replace.
Around 10, in other words, if somebody, if like an HOA would buy it from us, is that what we're doing? We're going to sell these?
They will go to auction and you can bid on them through Royal Auction Group.
But if we would bid on it and put in $20 and we're a low bidder, whoever buys it is going to inherit $10,000 of cost to get it back up to speed, correct?
Some level of cost.
Some level,
Ballpark.
yes.
Okay. That's issue one. I think we'll look at other options. The other one is I've got 8 street lights out and people asking me, when is the CDD going to get my lights fixed?
Okay.
And they're critical. I think the majority of them are probably on your side, CDD side, wiring. It's wiring. Because you only have 2 photo cells, and that doesn't seem to be the deal. But the other one is when we're doing the electrical work, our West Coast hooking up street lights or Christmas lights, we found one of the wires had fused, and somebody should have seen that right off the bat. he fixed it and all the lights came back on, street lights work, Christmas lights work, and everything worked. But we have 8 lights that are out, and they're in very noticeable places to where it's dark.
I can tell you that we do have a purchase order out with Bentley. Bentley also lost their main foreman. Not like he died, but he quit. He left and went to a different company. So we are entertaining the notion of looking for a different electrical vendor.
What about West Coast?
If we can get a response from them,
We're working with them, but they are so snowed on the beach and at Sanibel.
And I know we have some existing purchase orders out in Pelican that we're waiting for them to schedule, and I think they were scheduling it this week. So,
well, those are 2 that I've got the people at our board meeting today. When are you going to get these lights fixed?
Is there not, that's just, again, how difficult is that to pull in a experienced electrician internally? I thought we had electricians.
We have Bill.
we do, but there are things that are beyond his capabilities, like running wire but we put together a purchase order. We're gonna buy a piece of equipment that can check the wire, so we can do that internally at least, and not have to wait on an electrician to come out. So we're making strides to expedite our repairs.
We've got 5 lights that are out that are FPL. And that's a problem you got when you jump in bed with FPL, you are in bed.
Well,
because they will not come out and fix anything.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, but that is a good example too. And like part of our, reservations around shifting to a turnkey solution with FPL is, hey, we've got real existing issues today that it's taking us a long time to get resolved. Now, again, there's conditions that's driving that, but still.
Well, when you're paying a monthly fee of, I don't care if it's $35 or $16 a pole like we are, and the lights have been out for 7 months, come on.
Yeah. Well, is there any service
That's
level
not
agreements or anything like that in the contract?
There's a statute that talks about limitation of liability for streetlight providers, which includes us for our streetlights and FPL. And it talks about certain notice requirements, repair requirements, and timeframes. Here's the rub. Streetlight provider operating in a county affected by a state of emergency, prepared by federal, state, or local authorities, the time periods in paragraph B you see about fixing and everything else shall be extended to 365 days after the cessation of the emergency.
A year.
Yeah.
Going to be dark.
Good lobbyist.
Going to be dark.
But when you do enter a ticket, it's saying 20 days.
Yeah.
But they don't have any trouble collecting the rates on a monthly basis for those lights
We
that are
delay
not
paying
operating.
for 365 days.
Do what?
We delay payment of 365 days.
Oh, yeah.
Typically, they would have 60 days as we to fix it, but this.
That'll get their lawyers out there to you.
Yeah.
That's all you have, Ed?
That's all I have.
All right, Carol? Oh, she's out, so go that.
Yeah, nothing for me.
I have one thing, if I can chime in. So at yesterday's Stony Brook
I don't have
Advisory.
anything more. I don't have anything more.
Okay.
At yesterday's Stony Brook Advisory Committee meeting, this will come in front of you at your first meeting in January, but since we are actually implementing the O&M agreement that has been in place for 7+ years, the Stony Brook Advisory Committee made a motion yesterday to recommend to the board to dissolve their committee. It is there, and I'll try to summarize this. If the O&M works as it's supposed to be written, they don't feel that there is a need for their oversight. It's redundant. And so they would like to resolve, in essence, move over to the HOA side and form a committee over there that does the oversight on behalf of the HOA. So
Wow.
I'm just letting you know that that'll be in front of you.
Look at Stony Brook being efficient.
In January. So
that's fantastic.
We have our
Surprise.
our holiday luncheon next Wednesday for staff. So we will be closing the office for an hour. We're going to be doing just our catered lunch and then like a white elephant. So
Carol said something about see you here on the 27th. We got something.
I meet with her on the 27th.
Oh, okay.
To get her up to speed on all the projects that we're doing. So
I just have three things, and one I gave feedback. So the room rental.
yes, we're gonna get up to speed with that. The room was not up to par. So
Well, it's
What room?
This room.
Because we rent this, and when we came here to a meeting, that's the second time.
Oh, you mean
all
your
the
HOA.
chairs, everything.
Our
So
utility
I don't
staff
mind,
like to
I don't
use
mind
this
paying for
as
it,
a
but when it
meeting
was
room.
free, it was in better shape than now.
Yeah.
$25 an hour. So, any update on Stony Brook? Remember Keith was supposed to come with a proposal, I forgot, about the Lariapi for the center median, what the auxiliaries are.
Yeah, the median.
That's still at Stony Brook. The board gave direction to send that back to Stony Brook Advisory Committee for their input. And
Yes.
so they're working with a couple of the residents that had vocalized and had some ideas. So they have somebody
So it's
assigned.
all them.
So
It's
we're waiting
it's
on
at the
Okay.
Stony Brook level.
All right. And two more things. I noticed that irrigation issues on Gateway Boulevard is center median.
Oh,
All the
watering the blacktop. I've
Okay.
heard
No,
that
well,
so much.
I gave up on that. No, it's actually the dry. It's by the pool, by Hidden Links, by Gateway
It's
Greens.
dry.
Yeah, so I have a list of about 15 locations. And that's
Please.
what
Did
Send
somebody do
those.
a wet check?
We will. Please send that.
but
Dry
it's,
check?
it's, yeah, even what the new roundabout is going to be, it's all dry.
Okay, that's odd. Well, if you could send those locations, but I'll also
Yeah.
reach out to staff.
Okay. And then, do we own the sidewalk on Westlink on the side where the fire station is?
I believe so.
I'd have to look into it.
I think,
We'll double check.
I've looked at that. I
I
think we do. Yeah.
Okay. The reason why I say that
Is that in between Daniels and Commerce?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure we own that.
Okay.
99%
I'm
sure.
sure, yeah, I'm pretty
the
confident.
entire sidewalk is blocked by debris. When I mean block,
Oh, yeah.
I mean block.
FEMA
So-
stuff they haven't picked
so
up
if
yet.
if they haven't picked up that, then either we put signs that they're closed because it's from the beginning of the school all the way almost to the second entrance of Gateway Greens. It's totally.
I think we also own that sidewalk on Commonwealth Drive also, on the other street.
Yeah. All right, that's it. That's all I have.
Madam Chair, I have one thought
Yes.
that just came to mind. When we mentioned about the Stony Brook Advisory Committee, if they voted to dissolve themselves or ask the board, it would need to be a resolution by this board.
Yes.
Repealing the prior resolution. You want me to bring that back at the next board meeting?
If that's the direction
gonna
they're
do it.
going, yeah.
They're gonna do it.
Yeah.
That is their
Okay.
recommendation. So, but ultimately this board has the final decision. So
We
yes,
haven't-
I would say draft it and we'll have it.
And you'll
If
have
they're
the
moving
board-
that way, I don't want to throw any rocks in the way of the road.
I'll volunteer to be the board liaison to this.
Oh.
All right, so I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah.
And
Tough
Motion
job.
to adjourn.
Tough job for
Second,
25 days.
Merry Christmas.
All right, thanks,
do you
everyone.
want to take this?
Oh, thank you.
Bye-bye.